Chapter 921, The Warm Old Man, 3. Then let's go to the Chung family's divine realm to take a look. Maybe we can find them, Lung Ruoxue suggested. Yes, but only after you've finished converting your energy. Otherwise, with your current strength, you'll have no choice but to wait for someone to grab you while you walk through the divine continent. Yichen reminded him with a wicked grin. The God realm is not peaceful. Beauty, you need my protection. Yichen added like a lecher. Yes, I'm counting on Big Brother de Sha. Lung Ruoxue smiled shyly. Shuer, let's discuss something. Can you not call me that? Yichen said gloomily. That name didn't match his image. His reputation had been ruined by Zheng. But I think this name is not bad. Lung Ruoxue smiled evilly, her beautiful eyes filled with teasing. Sigh. Shuer, the God realm is really chaotic, Yichen said helplessly. I know, I'll be careful, Lung Ruoxue quickly promised obediently. Shuer, if anyone dares to snatch you away, well, if I can beat them, I'll beat them up. If I can't, Yichen smiled mysteriously and left half of his sentence unfinished. What do you want if you can't win? Lung Ruoxue took the bait. She knew that this freak was waiting for her to ask. They would have to snatch me away too. Otherwise, I won't let him snatch you away, Yichen said shamelessly. The same thing couldn't happen again. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but break out in cold sweat when she heard the freak's words. She thought to herself, strong. He's really extraordinarily strong. He can't even beat him, will he listen to you? However, she could only think about this in her heart and didn't dare to say it out loud. Otherwise, the freak would definitely cry for her. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded cooperatively. Shuer, I haven't hugged you to sleep in a long time. I have to hug you to my heart's content today, Yichen said with anticipation. Then, he hugged Shuer tightly and closed his eyes. On the other side, it was already the next day when the head of the Wen family found out that Zheng had already left. When he heard this news, he was angry and regretful because he never dreamed that Zheng and his servant would really leave without even saying goodbye. In the main hall of the Wen family mansion, what are the guards of the Wen family doing? No one noticed that the two of them left? The head of the Wen family was so angry that his face and neck were red. He shouted at the top of his voice. Patriarch, what's the use of saying this now? Hurry up and send someone to find him. The sixth elder said anxiously. Zheng had really left without a word, but what about the members of the Wen family? Thanks, butler, why are you still standing there in a daze? Hurry up and send someone to find him. If you can't find him, you don't have to come back. The Wen family's head said angrily. Patriarch, don't be anxious. I've already sent someone to look for him, the head butler said with a long face. Boo! Was he caught in the crossfire without doing anything? This had nothing to do with him in the first place. It was all because the patriarch's family was not strict. Otherwise, how could Zheng have left? He could not help but feel his stomach ache. Find someone for me too. The head of the Wen family roared. He didn't want to see the head butler at all now. He was really too useless. He couldn't even handle such a small matter. If the butler had kept an eye on the money, how could he have given that old woman a chance? The Wen family's head grumbled in his heart. Yes, the head butler replied and hurriedly left the main hall. Patriarch, you have to give the family an explanation for this matter. After the head butler left to find someone, the sixth elder calmed down a lot. He also knew that the patriarch would definitely be unhappy after hearing this, but he had to say what he had to say. What explanation does the sixth elder want me to give? The Wen family's master glared at him as if he was about to fly into a rage at any moment. I don't know either. Patriarch, do as you see fit. The sixth elder said irresponsibly. Then he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. The head of the Wen family looked at the elders sitting there and felt anger rising in his heart. Damn it, he had asked them to meet Zheng earlier to get close to him, and these old fellows, including the sixth elder, had all rejected him. Now that he had left, it was all his fault. It was really infuriating. Just like that, the head of the Wen family and the elders stared at each other for a long time, but they could not think of a way to appease their clansmen. The Zheng Ersha they were looking for had long disappeared. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the others had already left the foot of the nameless mountain range and were heading to the nearest small city according to the map to undergo energy conversion. Before leaving the nameless mountain range, Leng Ruoxue had already advanced to the mystic god realm here. After she advanced, the beasts also advanced one after another. Now, Bai Su, Feng Zhan, Mei, and the other beasts like the old phoenix had all broken through the barrier of a level 9 transcendent divine beast and advanced to become a divine beast. Among them, because the old phoenixes had cultivated for a long time, they were still the strongest. They had already reached the level of a level 4 divine beast. Now, their strength was almost equivalent to the high-level gods on the divine continent. Bai Su, on the other hand, was a level 3 divine beast. His strength was equivalent to an intermediate god in the divine continent. Feng Zhan and Mei were respectively a level 2 divine beast and a level 1 divine beast. Now, their strength was almost at the level of junior gods or profound gods. As for treasures and other beasts, they had all advanced to level 9 super divine beasts and were only a step away from divine beasts. Leng Ruoxue was quite satisfied with this result, but there was still a little accident. This was because Leng Ruoxue had already signed a soul contract with the little peacock, the pythons, and the other beasts before she advanced. However, what she didn't expect was that the little peacock and some of the pythons hadn't advanced to a level 9 transcendent divine beast. The black python with the highest strength also couldn't break through to become a holy beast. This couldn't help but make her feel a little regretful. The little peacock and the other beasts were also very depressed. For this, she even comforted them for a long time. A day later, Leng Ruoxue and the others arrived at the small city closest to the nameless mountain range. Although this city was small, it had a rather grand name, Will Heaven City. Moreover, it had everything. There was the Mystic God Association, the Alchemist Association, the Artificer Association, and so on. Chapter 9:22, The Warm Old Man. 4. Walking on the streets of Will Heaven City, Leng Ruoxue looked at the dazzling array of shops in the city and couldn't help but sigh. Such a small city is actually so prosperous. Even if it is small, it can still contain the essentials. The Will Heaven City isn't big, but this place isn't under the jurisdiction of any of the 8 great clans, so the city lord of this city will naturally do his best to manage it, Yuan explained with a light smile. In the divine continent, small cities like this generally weren't worthy of the 8 great clans' attention. Therefore, even if such small cities were prosperous, the money they earned was limited. Okay. Leng Ruoxue nodded in agreement and wondered if they should build a small city like this in the future. Swear, we've arrived at the Mystic God Association. Go and do the energy conversion first. Not long after, Yuan pointed at a 3-story staircase. Okay. Go find a guest shop and wait for me. You don't have to accompany me, Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. She knew that the freak and Fengda took more than half a month to perform the energy conversion, so she expected that it would take a long time. All right, then take care of yourself. Yuan nodded. Then, after watching Xuan walk into the Guild of Gods, he led Fengda and the others to find a guest shop. After Leng Ruoxue walked into the Mystic God Association, she found that the guild hall was actually empty. She stood alone in the hall for a while and casually looked around the layout of the guild hall. Then she found a chair and sat down. Not long after, an inconspicuous old man came out of nowhere. The old man was not tall and looked fair and fat. He gave off a shrewd look. His strength was at the mid-level of the high-level deity. When the old man saw Leng Ruoxue sitting in the hall, his eyes actually emitted a wolf-like light. Then, he quickly walked in front of Leng Ruoxue and said very enthusiastically, "Are you here to undergo energy conversion? Welcome. Welcome." The old man was very excited, and the way he looked at Leng Ruoxue became more and more amiable and passionate. However, his gaze as if he was looking at prey made Leng Ruoxue's hair stand on end. She wanted to run out. She regretted it. If she had known that the people from the Mystic God Association in the Will Heaven City were perverts, she would have let the freak and the others accompany her. However, if this old man dared to do anything to her, he could not blame her for being impolite. At that time, She did not care if this person was from the Mystic God Association or not. She did not care if his strength was above hers. Thanks. In an instant, Lung Ruoxia's thoughts spun. Then, she composed herself and said calmly, "I'm here to undergo energy conversion. Is it convenient now?" "It's convenient. It's convenient. It's convenient whenever you come," the old man said excitedly. Ah. Lung Ruoxia didn't know what to say. Could it be that this old man knew her? Even though she had been in the divine continent for a while, she didn't seem to have walked on the continent before. I'll bring you to undergo energy conversion now." After the old man finished speaking, he reached out to pull Lung Ruoxia. Lung Ruoxia dodged the old man's wolf claws and said unhappily, "Just lead the way." Good. I didn't expect the little girl to be so shy. The old man smiled happily. Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this old man's words. She thought to herself, wasn't she just shy? Let's go, I'll bring you to the conversion pool upstairs. The old man was not affected by Lung Ruoxia's attitude. His face was still smiling, but this time, he did not reach out to pull Lung Ruoxia. "Don't we have to go through the procedures? We still have to hand over the crystals." Lung Ruoxia said understandingly. The freak had already told her about the previous procedures, so this old man's non-compliance made her secretly vigilant. You can just drip your blood on this card to recognize it as your master. However, you don't have to pay the money. The old man took out a card from his ring and handed it to Lung Ruoxia. "No need to pay?" Lung Ruoxia asked in confusion. To be honest, if this old man had gone through normal procedures, she might not have been too wary of him. However, this old man did not take the ordinary path and looked lecherous, so she had to be vigilant. "I like you," the old man said happily. His bright eyes kept shooting at Lung Ruoxia like a searchlight. After that, he even nodded his head vigorously as if he was very satisfied. "Stinky old man, if you dare to look at me like that again, you'll regret it," Lung Ruoxia warned impatiently. "Little girl, don't misunderstand. I'm not a bad person." When the old man heard this, he knew that he had been misunderstood by this little girl, so he hurriedly explained. It wasn't easy for a peerless beauty to come to his association, but he didn't expect his excessive excitement to scare this girl. Wasn't this making his emotions worse? Bad people won't admit that they're bad. Lung Ruoxia said lightly, her beautiful face filled with displeasure. Chapter 923. Little girl, I'm really not a bad person. Look at how amiable I am. I don't look like a bad person at all. The old man said with an expression as if he had wronged her. Stop talking nonsense. There are 10 medium-grade crystals here. Quickly bring me to undergo energy conversion. I still have something on. Lung Ruoxia urged. It wasn't that she didn't respect her elders. It was just that this old man was too abnormal. Little girl, I said that you don't have to pay. The old man reminded her aggrievedly. Why was such a beautiful little girl's temper so bad? No, you have to pay. Lung Ruoxia glared at the old man with her beautiful eyes and said loudly. She didn't need to pay this old man. Who knew if he had other motives? Therefore she had to be wary. The old man was depressed. He had been in the Mystic God Association for many years, but he had never seen such a difficult little girl. She actually couldn't be refused without money. Alas! If it were anyone else, they would be overjoyed. However, it was obvious that this girl treated his good intentions as a hot potato. When the old man thought of this, he felt extremely aggrieved. All right, I'll accept this money. The old man sighed helplessly and then accepted the 10 medium-grade crystals Lung Ruoxia handed him. Little girl, come upstairs with me, the old man said again and turned in the direction of the stairs. Lung Ruoxia followed the old man up to the second floor. The old man brought her to a room and reminded her to stay longer before closing the door and going out. Lung Ruoxia raised her beautiful eyes slightly and sized up the arrangements in the room. Then she came to the side of the spirit transformation fluid and walked into it. She sat cross-legged. She knew that the energy conversion was to absorb the conversion spiritual liquid in the pool, so she didn't delay for too long and closed her eyes to absorb it on her own. 3 days later. Please keep reading Zero and B0's novel. C0M. The old man stared at the staircase anxiously, wondering why this little girl hadn't finished converting yet. However, he was quite happy because this meant that this little girl's aptitude was not bad. However, after another half a month, the old man was a little uneasy when Leng Ruoxue still didn't come down from upstairs. There were several times when he had the urge to go upstairs to take a look, but he still resisted it. After another week, Leng Ruoxue finally walked down from upstairs. The old man looked at Leng Ruoxue, who came down from upstairs, as if he had seen a rare animal. His eyes lit up, and the expression on his face was extremely excited. He was so excited that he was speechless. Leng Ruoxue looked at the old man's expression and thought about how to deal with it. However, before she could think clearly, she suddenly saw the freak appear behind the old man. Then, his fist smashed into the old man's head. In the blink of an eye, the old man fainted. Freak, why did you knock him out? Leng Ruoxue said speechlessly. She hadn't bought a divine skill yet. Now, the only staff member in the entire association had also fainted. Who would sell her divine skills now? Other than fire and wind divine skills, they didn't have any other divine skills. The reason for this was because the freak and the others left in a hurry after the energy conversion last time, so they did not buy any divine skills. The divine skills of fire and wind were sponsored by Leng Qinya. However, only people with fire and wind attributes could use them. No one else could learn them. Apart from energy conversion, Leng Ruoxue's other mission in the Mystic God Association was to buy divine skills. However, she could only buy ordinary divine skills in the Mystic God Association. The best divine skills could only be bought during auctions. Moreover, there was one good thing about divine skills. Even if one became an ultimate god, they could still use the divine skills they had learned. Do you think you can leave without knocking him out? The freak said helplessly. Then he pulled Leng Ruoxue's hand and walked out of the guild. When they arrived outside the guild, Feng De and the others were already waiting for them on the beast. After Leng Ruoxue and the freak sat on it, Lei Xiao, who was acting as a flying beast, flapped his huge wings and left Heaven City. Miss, you didn't buy any divine skills again, right? Feng De, who was lying on Lei Xiao's back in midair, asked with a smile. That's right. That old man was knocked unconscious by the freak. Leng Ruoxue was very helpless, but she was more depressed. Why was it that Feng De and the others could advance even though it was also an energy conversion? The freak had even advanced to the intermediate level of high-level deity, but she didn't even advance one level? She was bullied so badly. We escaped quickly last time. Otherwise, we would probably have been pestered too, Feng De said knowingly. Swear, don't worry. There will be divine skills. When we reach the Chung family's divine realm, we can just buy them from the Mystic God Association, Leng Qinya comforted. Yes, you have to appear when we reach the Chung family's divine realm, Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. Okay. Leng Qinya chuckled, his handsome face filled with helplessness. After Lei Xiao flew for nearly half a month, Leng Ruoxue and the others finally arrived at the Chung family's divine realm. The Cheng family's divine realm was located in the southernmost part of the divine continent. There were a total of 7 cities. The largest city was the main city of the Cheng family, and the Cheng family's divine realm was ranked 3rd among the 8 divine realms. Among the 8 great clans of the God realm, other than the Ning family's divine realm, which was ranked 1st, the overall strength of the other 7 great clans was extremely different. Therefore, there were basically victories and defeats between them. After Leng Ruoxue and the others entered the territory of the Chung family's divine realm, they did not stay for long and went straight to the Chung family's main city. After entering the Chung family's main city, it was afternoon. Leng Ruoxue and the others first found a guest shop. Then, Leng Qinya went to the Mystic God Association to buy divine skills, while the others went to the streets to inquire about news. There are quite a lot of people in the Chung family's divine realm, Leng Ruoxue said softly as she looked at the pedestrians on the street. Yes, other than the Chung family, there are also many outsiders in this city. The freak frowned. He didn't like the way those people on the street looked at Xuan. Miss, I just heard some news, Fengde whispered to Leng Ruoxue. What news? Leng Ruoxue was a little curious. If it wasn't something important, Fengde shouldn't have specially come to tell her. Chapter 924. The beloved daughter of the Cheng family's head is getting married in a few days, Fengde said mysteriously. What do you mean again? Leng Ruoxue was a little puzzled. Could it be that the daughter of the city lord had been married many times? I heard that the precious daughter of the Cheng family's head already has 3 husbands. This is her 4th marriage, so there are so many people in the main city. Most of them are here to congratulate her, Fengde explained. Then what do they think of Miss Cheng? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help asking. That's right. They all praise Miss Cheng as a heroine and a role model for women. It's said that Miss Cheng is even the idol that many people admire. Fengde said in disbelief. It seems that the customs of the divine continent are different from other places. Leng Ruoxue guessed. Whether it was in Lingfeng or Haotian, such a thing was unimaginable. She still remembered that when they first arrived in the Haotian continent, the daughter of the city lord of Windless City was also called the 4 Evils because she liked handsome men. However, the handsome men of the daughter of Windless City were all snatched. Since this Miss Cheng was called a heroine, she should be different from the 4 Evils of Windless City. Thus, I was shocked when I heard the news. Moreover, it seems that such a thing is allowed in the God realm. Fengde looked at Lu Tao and said uneasily. Fengde, you guys continue strolling. Xuan and I will return to the guest shop first, the freak suddenly said. Then, without asking Xuan, he pulled her back to the guest room. In the guest room. Please keep reading Zero and Pi B Zero's novel. C0M Leng Ruoxue looked at the freak who suddenly became depressed and asked in confusion, Freak, what's wrong with you? Xuan, don't even think about it. The freak pulled a long face and said extremely gloomily. He really shouldn't have wandered around the streets with Xuan. He was really afraid that some things in the God realm would lead Xuan astray. Don't think about what? Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face was full of question marks. You can only have me, the freak said domineeringly. Then he held Xuan tightly in his arms. You're depressed because of this. Fool, I won't want anyone else except you. Leng Ruoxue quickly comforted and promised. Yes, yes. The freak nodded in satisfaction. Then he said, in the God realm, there are some women with excellent family backgrounds and aptitude who have such privileges. However, they still have to speak with strength. Oh, in that case, Miss Cheng should be very outstanding? Leng Ruoxue said uncertainly. I think so. Otherwise, the Cheng family wouldn't have allowed her to do this. You should know that most of the daughters of the families are basically used for marriages. However, it's obvious that this Miss Cheng isn't, the freak analyzed. Yes, but no matter how outstanding she is, it's none of our business. If Cheng Wu and the others aren't here, well, leave in a few days, Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. She felt that she didn't have much interaction with that Miss Cheng, so she naturally wouldn't pay attention to that heroine. Xuan, the Cheng family's divine realm is not good. Let's leave this place as soon as possible. The freak suggested. Demon, Miss Cheng is so outstanding. I'm not worried that she will have designs on you, let alone that you will fall in love with someone else. Why are you in a hurry? Leng Ruoxue teased and couldn't help but worry in her heart. If anyone should be worried, it should be me, right? I'm just afraid you'll learn bad things, the freak muttered softly. As if. Leng Ruoxue patted the freak's head and pretended to be unhappy. This guy clearly didn't trust her. Was she someone who could learn bad things so easily? Xuan, I love you. The freak smiled foolishly and said ingratiatingly. I also, Leng Ruoxue was about to say, I love you too, but she was interrupted after saying 2 words. Miss. Lin Yuan rushed into Leng Ruoxue's room anxiously. Then, he retreated when he saw his miss hugging Commander Yi tightly. Lin Yuan, what's the matter? Leng Ruoxue asked Lin Yuan, who stuck his head in. Yes. Lin Yuan nodded hard and told himself not to look at Commander Yi, who was unsatisfied. Boo! If looks could kill, he would probably have been killed by Commander Yes Glare. What is it? Come in and talk. Leng Ruoxue comforted the freak and then said to Lin Yuan, Miss, I saw Brother Song on the street. Lin Yuan walked in and said bluntly, Where did you see him? Leng Ruoxue quickly asked. At the entrance of a shop. However, Big Brother Song pretended not to know me, so he didn't say anything. There are many people around him. I asked around and they seemed to be from the Qing family, Lin Yuan explained. The Qing family? Leng Ruoxue frowned slightly, deep in thought. She couldn't understand why Song Di was with the Qing family. Miss, I'm going out to ask around. Lin Yuan said. After seeing Song Di just now, he wanted to quickly tell Miss this news, so he didn't ask too clearly. No need. When it gets dark, I'll go to the Qing family with the freak. Leng Ruoxue thought for a while and said, since she already knew that Song Di was with the Qing family, it was better to go to the Qing family personally to ask Song Di. Lin Yuan, let Feng De and the others come here when they come back later, Leng Ruoxue instructed again. Yes, Mississippi, I'll go out first. Lin Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. The pair that Commander Yi had given him was really too big. Not long after Lin Yuan left, Feng De and the others returned to the guest shop. Then, everyone came to Leng Ruoxue's room. After Leng Ruoxue told them the news Lin Yuan had obtained, everyone was very surprised and puzzled. Miss, is this true? Feng De asked in disbelief. Why were Song Di and the others with the Qing family instead of going to the Yuan family's divine realm to meet them? Of course it's true. I saw it with my own eyes. Not only that, but Brother Song also acted as if he didn't know me. I guarantee that I didn't misjudge him, Lin Yuan said very seriously. Chapter 925. Swear, it's probably not convenient for Song Di to pretend not to know Lin Yuan. They might have encountered some trouble. Leng Qingtian thought for a while and analyzed. He really didn't believe that Song Di and the others abandoned them because they had found a new backer in the God realm. After all, he trusted Qing Wu and the others. Yes, I'll go to the Qing family with the freak after dark to see what the situation is. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Miss, I'll go with you. Feng De hurriedly said. Yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Stay in the inn and wait for news. Leng Ruoxue looked at the expectant gazes of the others and said helplessly. She knew that the others were also very curious about this matter. After all, after interacting for so long, they all knew Qing Wu and the others very well. Yeah. They all nodded. After dark, Leng Ruoxue asked Yao to cast an invisibility spell on them, and the three of them sneaked into the Qing family mansion. The Qing family's mansion was larger than the Yuan family's, and Leng Ruoxue and the other two didn't have anyone to lead the way, so it could be said that they were blind. Therefore, they could only look in the courtyard one by one. The three of them split up and each found a direction. They agreed that if they found anything suspicious, they would contact each other through the voice transmission Jade token. Leng Ruoxue chose the north, but after searching 3 courtyards, she didn't find any traces of Qing Wu and the others. Please keep reading 0 and B0's novel. C0M, Qing Ju, did you discover anything? Leng Ruoxue sent a voice transmission to Qing Ju. Sister, there are ultimate gods guarding the 8 divine realms on the divine continent, so I don't dare to search too widely. However, I didn't find Qing Wu and the others anywhere I looked, Qing Ju replied. Sister, it would be great if we could find someone from the Qing family. That way, I can read minds, Qing Ju added. I want to too, but I can't find it. Leng Ruoxue said gloomily. She finally realized that the 8 great families were extraordinarily confident. She actually didn't see many guards at night, and she didn't know where the guards on night duty were. Sister, don't be anxious. Let's search slowly. We'll find it eventually, Qing Ju comforted. Okay. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Then she planned to continue searching for Qing Wu and the others. Just as she was about to move, she received a voice transmission from the freak saying that she had found them. After hearing the news from the freak, Leng Ruoxue immediately went to the courtyard that the freak mentioned to meet him. Not long after, Feng De arrived. Monster, Are Cheng Wu and the others definitely inside? Leng Ruoxue confirmed. Yes, I've already seen Song Di, but I asked him to go back to his room and wait for us, the freak explained. When he walked into the courtyard, he saw Song Di looking around at the door, as if he was waiting for someone, so he directly went forward to greet him. Then let's go in, Leng Ruoxue urged. All right, the freak replied. Then, the three of them walked into the courtyard. The courtyard where Cheng Wu and the others lived now could be considered top-notch from the size of the courtyard and the decorations in the courtyard. Leng Ruoxue sized up the scenery in the courtyard as she walked, and the more she looked, the more puzzled she was. At this moment, in the only room in the courtyard with the lights on, two men were walking around like ants on a hot pan. When Leng Ruoxue and the other two pushed open the door and walked in, they happened to see such a scene. Looks like the two of you are treated well, Leng Ruoxue teased with a light smile. Just by looking at the luxurious furnishings in this room, she knew that they shouldn't have suffered any physical pain. Instead, the treatment the Chung family gave them was quite high. Miss, don't tease us, Cheng Wu said to the void with a bitter face. Because Miss and the others were invisible, he couldn't determine their exact location and could only speak to the air. I didn't. Your treatment is indeed better than mine, Leng Ruoxue said with slight grievance. After she was captured by the Wen family's ultimate god, the place she lived in couldn't compare to Cheng Wu and the others at all. Miss, there's a reason why this treatment is good. Song Di glanced at Cheng Wu and said with sympathy, We're here to hear the reason. Tell us. Feng De covered his mouth and chuckled. He was not so worried when he saw the place Cheng Wu lived in. This is the Chung family's divine realm, and your surname is Cheng. Could it be that you have something to do with them? Leng Ruoxue guessed. Miss, I have nothing to do with them. I can swear, Cheng Wu hurriedly promised when he heard Leng Ruoxue's words. Even though the Chung family had also used such a reason to persuade him to stay, he had rejected them. There's no need to swear. Tell me why you're with the Chung family. Leng Ruoxue said curiously. Miss, this has to start when we just arrived in the God realm. Cheng Wu sighed softly. He didn't even contribute to Miss matters, and now he had to make Miss worry about his matters. He was really too ashamed. Ever since he heard from Song Di that he had seen Lin Yuan in the afternoon, he had guessed that Miss had been saved. Now that he had heard his Miss voice with his own ears, he was even more relieved. Even though he really wanted to know Miss' situation these days, it was obvious that this was not the time. And Miss might not tell them in detail here. Okay, say it. Leng Ruoxue was very calm. Miss, we originally agreed to gather at the Wen family's divine realm if we were separated. The place where we were sent by the teleportation light to be very close to the Chung family's divine realm, so we directly underwent energy conversion at the Mystic God Association here. However, our energy conversion caused a huge commotion, so we were targeted by the Chung family. After the head of the Chung family found out that my surname was also Chung, he invited me to join the Chung family in the name of my race, but I rejected him. Cheng Wu paused with a difficult expression. Oh, then did the Chung family make things difficult for you? Leng Ruo said lightly. After hearing Cheng Wu's words, she understood. The Chung family must have felt that Cheng Wu and the others' qualifications were too good, so they wanted to take them in. No, the head of the Chung family is very reasonable. Seeing that we were unwilling and had something urgent to do, he let us leave. However, on the way out of the Chung family's divine domain, Cheng Wu found it difficult to speak. This matter was really too dramatic. Chapter 926. On the way out of the Chung family's divine domain, we had a conflict with someone and indirectly saved the eldest daughter of the Chung family who was captured by him. That Miss Chung wanted to express her gratitude to us, so she forced us to stay and even wanted to marry Brother Cheng. Song Di saw that Cheng Wu couldn't say it, so he explained for him. So you're the person Miss Cheng is going to marry? Feng De said in surprise. He really didn't expect the groom of the Chung family to be an acquaintance. Sigh. Don't mention it, Mississippi. We really didn't meddle in other people's business. Boo-hoo, Cheng Wu was depressed. However, he hated the person who had a conflict with them even more. He could have captured anyone, but why did he have to capture Miss Cheng? Now, she insisted on giving herself to him. So, what should he do? Is Miss Cheng beautiful? Leng Ruoxue suddenly asked. It's all right. Cheng Wu replied honestly. No way? I heard that Miss Cheng is a rare beauty. Feng De said with a smile. After knowing that Cheng Wu and the others were in the Chung family, they specially went to inquire about the situation of the Chung family, including Miss Cheng. It's not bad. Perhaps Miss Cheng is a beauty in the eyes of others, but it's not like I haven't seen someone more beautiful than her, Cheng Wu said truthfully. The beauty he was referring to was naturally his own miss. How strong is she? Leng Ruoxue asked again. Her strength is above mine, Cheng Wu said after some thought. In order to leave this place, he had fought Miss Cheng. However, he had lost. How strong is the person who had a conflict with you? Leng Ruoxue continued to ask. Please keep reading 0 and B0's novel. C0M, that person's strength is inferior to mine. I can beat him up alone, Cheng Wu said with certainty. In that case, how could that person capture Miss Cheng? Moreover, it's to capture someone in the Cheng family's divine realm. Does he want to die? Also, how many people did that person bring? Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with suspicion. Miss, that person only brought 5 people with her. However, Miss Cheng seems to have some illness. When she was caught by them, it happened to be when she fell ill. As for the person who captured her, she's from the Yao family. The Yao family is also one of the 8 great families. Their 2 families have never gotten along, Cheng Wu said after thinking for a while. He had heard about these situations from Miss Cheng, and he had also inquired about them himself. Swear, the Yao family is ranked 2nd among the 8 great families, the freak added. Oh, monster, what do you think the probability of this being a coincidence is? Leng Ruoxue asked. Because she wasn't involved and didn't see anyone from the Chung family, she couldn't tell if this was a coincidence or if the Chung family did it on purpose. I don't know either. However, the Chung family has a good reputation in the God realm. Moreover, the head of the Chung family is quite prestigious in the God realm. The freak shook his head. Cheng Wu, what do you think? Also, how did the sensible head of the Chung family react to you becoming the son-in-law of the Chung family? Leng Ruoxue continued to ask suspicious questions. Miss, we haven't seen the Chung family's head yet. However, Miss Cheng said that as long as she likes it, her father won't have any objections, Cheng Wu said helplessly. He had wanted to see the Chung family's head a few times, but he had been stopped. So, that's right, Mississippi. On the surface, this matter seems to have been decided by Miss Cheng alone. However, it's indeed quite strange that the head of the Chung family hasn't appeared. Song Di thought for a moment and said, Hee, Big Brother Cheng, I heard that Miss Cheng already has 3 husbands? Feng De asked curiously. Even though everyone in the city said so, he didn't know if it was true. Cheng Wu nodded awkwardly. Brother Cheng, if that's the case, Miss Cheng, you really can't marry him. Feng De said very seriously. Damn it, who said I was going to marry her? Cheng Wu was furious when he heard Feng De's words. Calm down. Feng De didn't dare to tease him anymore and quickly comforted him. Then, he said to Leng Ruoxue, Miss, why don't we take Brother Cheng and the others out while it's dark? No. Cheng Wu refused. Didn't you not want to marry Miss Cheng? I can take you out of here now. Leng Ruoxue said in confusion. Miss, we can't go with you now, Cheng Wu said gloomily. But, have you changed your mind about marrying Miss Cheng? Feng De's face was also full of question marks. No, Blackie and the others were taken away by them. We searched for them for a long time but couldn't find them, Cheng Wu said guiltily. So, if anything happened to his brother because of him, he would probably have to die to apologize. Miss, if it weren't for this, we would have long thought of a way to leave this place. However, we're trapped here now. Moreover, we've always been monitored by the Chung family. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so afraid to recognize Lin Yuan when I saw him this afternoon. Song Di also had a distressed expression. So, he kept him by Cheng Wu's side so that he could accompany Brother Cheng. I see. Don't be anxious. Well, go back and discuss with the others and think of a good way to save you then, Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. Then, the few of them chatted for a while before leaving the Cheng family. After returning to the guest shop, Leng Ruoxue and the others discussed for the night and finally decided to take the initiative to attack. Therefore, they went straight to the door the next day. Chapter 927. After Leng Ruoxue and the others arrived at the Cheng family, they directly said that they wanted to look for the eldest daughter of the Cheng family. When the guards saw their extraordinary auras, they did not dare to neglect them. The eldest daughter of the Cheng family, Cheng Lan, who was resting in her room, frowned when she heard the guards' report and seriously thought about who it was because she was very sure that she didn't know Leng Ruoxue. Lena, don't think about it. You're frowning, a man in the room said with some heartache. This man was tall and strong. Although he was not particularly handsome, he was very masculine. He was one of Cheng Lan's husbands, Lu Xian from the Lu family, who was ranked last among the 8 great families. Do you know if any of my friends are called Leng Ruoxue? Cheng Lan could not help but ask. Laner, if you don't remember, how can I recognize you? Lu Xian said speechlessly. Laner had a wide range of friends and was generous. Therefore, there were often some Tom, Dick, and Harry who would take the opportunity to come and take advantage of her. Therefore, he had never had a good impression of Laner's bad friends. But I really can't remember who she is, Cheng Laner said with an aggrieved expression. Don't think about it if you don't want to. It's not a big deal. If you don't want to see him, just ask the guards to return, Lu Xian said indifferently. He didn't think it was difficult to send away a friend he didn't know well, but he was afraid Laner didn't think so. How can that be? Father often said that if you visit, you're a guest. Whether you like it or not, you shouldn't neglect it. As expected, Cheng Lan objected as soon as she heard Lu Xian's words. How can that be? Father often said that if you visit, you're a guest. Whether you like it or not, you shouldn't neglect it. As expected, Cheng Lan objected as soon as she heard Lu Xian's words. Please keep reading Zero and B0's novel. C0 alright, let her in. I also want to see what she wants from me, Cheng Lan said curiously. After receiving Cheng Lan's order, the guard left Cheng Lan's courtyard and went to the door to invite Leng Ruoxue and the others in. After bringing them to the main hall, the guard left. Leng Ruoxue and the others sat in the main hall for a while. Not long after, a young man and woman walked in from outside. Leng Ruoxue raised her beautiful eyes and sized up the young woman who walked in. She should be the eldest daughter of the Cheng family. This woman looked very young. Moreover, as the rumors said, she was a rare beauty. Her strength was not bad, and she was an intermediate high-level deity. As for the obviously hostile man beside her, he was probably one of her husbands. Even though the man was not particularly handsome, he had an outstanding temperament and looked otherworldly. He gave off a very clean feeling. Even though his cultivation level was not as high as the woman beside him, the two of them were very compatible when they stood together. However, why did that man look so unhappy with them? Leng Ruoxue's heart was filled with question marks. She had never seen these two people before. Besides, they had imprisoned her subordinates in disguise. She should be the one who was angry. While Leng Ruoxue was sizing up Cheng Lan and Lu Xian, the two of them were also sizing up Leng Ruoxue and the others. Cheng Lan looked at Leng Ruoxue in amazement and was even more surprised in her heart. This woman was really beautiful. She was even more beautiful than the two bitches from the Ning family and the Yao family. No, to be precise, the two bitches from the Ning family and the Yao family couldn't even compare to a strand of this woman's hair. She was so happy in her heart. Unfortunately, this woman's strength was too low, only at the mystic god level. This was a little flawed. Cheng Lan. Miss Leng, do we know each other? Cheng Lan introduced herself and asked bluntly. How should I put it? Leng Ruoxue was in a difficult position. The two of them didn't know each other, but Cheng Lan wanted to force her subordinate to marry her. Miss Leng, feel free to tell me if you have any difficulties. I will definitely help if I can, Cheng Lan said generously. Really? Lung Ruoxue was a little suspicious. She wondered if Miss Qing would fall out with her if she told Qing Lan to let her subordinates go. However, the first impression Qing Lan gave her didn't seem like an unreasonable and unruly person. Why would she do something to imprison her subordinates? She couldn't understand. Of course, Qing Lan was very loyal. In addition, she liked Lung Ruoxue, so she naturally agreed to everything. In that case, please let my subordinates go, Miss Cheng. Lung Ruoxue went straight to the point, thinking, you asked me to mention this. Your subordinate? I didn't capture your subordinate. Cheng Lan's face was full of question marks. Then she turned to ask Lu Xian, do you know who in the Cheng family captured Miss Lung's subordinate? She's asking you for someone. If you don't know, how would I know? Lu Xian rolled his eyes and said helplessly. Laner's personality was sometimes too out of line. She didn't even figure out what was going on before making things clear. She didn't allow anyone to stop her or she would fall out with them. Miss Lung, Qing Lan looked at Lung Ruoxue helplessly, her beautiful face still full of innocence. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Moreover, she could tell that Qing Lan was definitely not pretending. She really didn't know. How could this be? Qing Lan had exceeded her expectations. If Qing Lan was an unruly, willful, and unreasonable woman, it would be easier to deal with her. However, it was really not easy for her to deal with someone who did not remember what she had done. More importantly, this was the Cheng family's territory. Miss Cheng, I'm talking about Qing Wu and the others. Lung Ruoxue had no choice but to make herself clear. Brother Cheng and the others are your subordinates? But why is your strength not as high as Brother Cheng and the others? Qing Lan did not understand. In her understanding, it was very embarrassing for a subordinate to have a higher cultivation than her. Moreover, this way, it would not be easy to convince her subordinates. Isn't it normal for my cultivation to not be as high as theirs? This way, they can protect me, Lung Ruoxue said lightly, feeling a sense of powerlessness in her heart. What kind of logic was this, Miss Cheng? Chapter 928. It shouldn't be like this. If your subordinates are stronger than you, why would they be convinced by you? Qing Lan said stubbornly. That depends on your personality. Force can't solve everything. Miss Cheng, I'm not here to discuss this with you. Lung Ruoxue defended herself and then reminded her speechlessly. But Qing Lan didn't give up and wanted to ask, but Lung Ruoxue interrupted her. Miss Cheng, please release my subordinates. Lung Ruoxue sighed and said politely. I didn't catch them. They stayed here willingly. Besides, we're getting married in a few days, so you're welcome to attend the wedding. Qing Lan explained. Then, as if she was shy, her voice became softer and softer. Miss Cheng, you locked Cheng Wu's brothers elsewhere. Cheng Wu can't not stay here even if he wants to. Besides, Cheng Wu doesn't want to marry you, Lung Ruoxue said honestly. If possible, she didn't want to fall out with this Miss Cheng. Even though Cheng Lan's forced marriage was a little shameful, Cheng Lan's first impression wasn't too bad. She also felt that Cheng Lan should be different from those unruly daughters of aristocratic families, so she hoped that she could convince this Miss Cheng. I didn't lock them up. I just hope that Brother Cheng can live comfortably. If so many people live together, it will be very inconvenient. That's why I arranged for the others to live elsewhere. Besides, didn't I leave that person called Song Di to accompany him? Qing Lan explained. She didn't feel that she had done anything wrong. Instead, she thought that she had thought it through. Lung Ruoxue felt more and more helpless when she heard Qing Lan's words because she clearly realized that she was not on the same channel as Qing Lan. Lung Ruoxue took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She secretly warned herself to hold it in and not be angry before saying calmly, Miss Cheng, maybe your arrangement is kind, but Cheng Wu doesn't think it's good. Does he think this arrangement isn't good? But he didn't tell me. Qing Lan's frown deepened. She really didn't think that there was anything wrong with this arrangement. She even sent someone to take care of Brother Cheng and Song Di. Please keep reading Zero and Pi B0's novel. C0M. What should I tell you? You won't change even if I tell you. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but grumble. Moreover, she knew that with Cheng Lan's personality, even if Cheng Wu told her, he probably wouldn't take it seriously. Moreover, Cheng Wu had asked to leave several times, but Cheng Lan didn't allow it. Later, Cheng Lan arranged for so many people to serve him, so Cheng Wu and Song Di would naturally feel that they were being watched. In addition, He Zi and the others were in Cheng Lan's hands, so they could only commit the crime. Miss Cheng, will you let them go if Cheng Wu asks you to? Seeing that his lady was too depressed to speak, Feng De spoke up on her behalf. He's my future husband. Of course he can't leave me. Cheng Lan thought for a moment and said seriously. Cheng Lan's words made Feng De speechless. He knew that this would be the outcome. This Miss Cheng was extraordinarily stubborn. Moreover, he realized that as long as Miss Cheng was determined, it seemed that it was useless for others to say anything. Miss Cheng, our brother Cheng doesn't want to marry you at all. Lin Yuan couldn't stand it anymore and said directly. But in what way am I not good enough for him? Hearing this, Cheng Lan was sad. She thought that she had done her best for brother Cheng, but why didn't brother Cheng want to marry her? How do you know that Cheng Wu doesn't want to marry Lena? Did he tell you himself? At this moment, Lu Xian, who had not said a word, suddenly asked and stared at them suspiciously. Tisk, isn't it obvious? Which man is willing to share his woman with others? This is definitely a humiliation to men. Of course, it's the same for women. Love is originally a monogamy. If there's someone else in the relationship, this relationship won't be so precious, Lin Yuan said very seriously. Tisk, isn't it obvious? Which man is willing to share his woman with others? This is definitely a humiliation to men. Of course, it's the same for women. Love is originally one-sided. If there's someone else in the relationship, this relationship won't be so precious, Lin Yuan said very seriously. Miss Cheng, everyone has different standards for relationships. Perhaps some people like to have a harem, but most people like monogamy. Therefore, Cheng Wu won't accept you, and you can't possibly abandon your 3 husbands for him, right? Lung Ruoxue analyzed. It was hard to say about relationships, and others could not make any decisions for her. Therefore, she really hoped that Cheng Lan could figure it out herself. Otherwise, unless she could kill Cheng Lan and destroy the Cheng family now, this big trouble would keep pestering them. I really like brother Cheng, Cheng Lan whispered with a hurt expression. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Love can only last if both sides are willing and are happy, Lung Ruoxue said. I never wanted to force him. I just like him too much, really. Cheng Lan felt wronged and tears welled up in her eyes. Miss Cheng, sometimes people can't be too self-centered. Perhaps you think it's good for him, but it depends on whether others can accept it. But Cheng Wu has no choice but to accept it now. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly, her beautiful face filled with speechlessness. Is it wrong to like someone? Cheng Lan said sadly. She had never liked to be unreasonable and bully others, but she was so stubborn on certain matters that even her parents could not do anything about it. It's not wrong to like someone, but if you want to be together, both sides have to be willing. Lung Ruoxue said implicitly. Looking at Cheng Lan, she couldn't say it too harshly. Otherwise, others would think that she had bullied the eldest daughter of the Cheng family. Feelings can be nurtured slowly. I believe that brother Cheng will be moved by me one day. Cheng Lan's stubbornness rose again. It could be said that she did not want to give up. Miss Cheng, if that day really comes, I won't stop you, but not now. I won't watch my subordinates be forced, so please let Cheng Wu and the others leave, Lung Ruoxue said seriously. Chapter 929. Not unless you can beat me, Cheng Lan said. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. If this was Cheng Lan's condition, then she was willing to accept this challenge. You actually agreed? Cheng Lan was a little surprised. In fact, she was certain that Lung Ruoxue would not agree to such a condition. This way, Cheng Wu could stay by her side openly. If this is your condition for letting him go, I accept it, Lung Ruoxue said very cautiously. She didn't want such trouble to keep pestering them, so it would be best if she could fulfill the other party's conditions herself. But you can't let others help you, including your own beasts, Chenglong added. Okay. Leng Ruoxue still agreed. It was her plan to be polite before resorting to force. Are you crazy? Chenglong said crazily. She swore that she just wanted Leng Ruoxue to retreat and not really want to fight with her. I'm very normal, Miss Cheng. You came up with this condition yourself. If I can defeat you, I hope you can keep your promise and stop forcing Cheng Wu. Of course, if Cheng Wu is moved by you and is willing to be with you, I won't stop it. Leng Ruoxue didn't say it too confidently. Otherwise, if she really angered Chenglong, it would definitely be a huge problem for them. All right then. Chenglong was a little unwilling. However, she had no choice but to accept this fact. There's no time like the present. Miss Cheng, find a suitable place and let's spar. Leng Ruoxue urged. Ever since the energy conversion was completed, although she had sparred with Fengde and the others were only junior gods, so it wasn't satisfying for her to fight at all. As for Leng Qianye and the freak, they didn't fight her at all. Now that she had Chenglong as her opponent, she naturally couldn't let them off. Please keep reading 0 and B0's novel. C0M, follow me. Chenglong said gloomily. Then, she left the main hall with Leng Ruoxue and the others and headed to the training ground. However, Chenglong was unhappy all the way. She could not understand why a mere mystic god was looking forward to the battle more than her. After arriving at the training ground, Chenglong chose an empty place and brought Leng Ruoxue and the others in. There were a total of 5 training grounds in the Cheng family, and each of them was large enough to accommodate nearly 100 people. Therefore, even after so many people entered, the entire training ground still seemed empty. Is this place okay? Chenglong asked gloomily. Of course. Leng Ruoxue nodded in satisfaction. Then let's start now. I'll let you come out with 3 moves first, Chenglong said generously after the 2 of them walked into the arena. Don't regret it. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Since the other party was willing to give in, she naturally wouldn't be coy and say no. It would be a waste not to. After all, this concerned the freedom of Cheng Wu and the others. And this was her first time fighting a god above the intermediate level, so she took this battle very seriously. I won't regret it, Chenglong said. However, she really regretted it after saying that because Leng Ruoxue had already made her move. Looking at the fire dragon that bared its fangs and brandished its claws with a terrifying aura, pouncing at her with a majestic aura, she actually felt a moment of fear. Even though it was only for a moment, this was unacceptable to her, who had always been proud. Be careful of my fire dragon dance. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Even though the name of the fire dragon dance was very impressive, it could only be considered an ordinary divine skill. Moreover, in the eyes of others, this divine skill was not very powerful, but it was hard to say in her hands. I'll be careful, Chenglong replied very politely. Because she had said that she would let Leng Ruoxue make 3 moves, she could only defend. With that, Chenglong immediately set up a transparent defensive barrier for herself. The defensive barrier was earthen yellow and looked like it was only a thin layer, as if it would break at a touch. However, after Leng Ruoxue's fire dragon collided with the defensive barrier, not only did the transparent membrane not move, it even bounced her fire dragon back. Leng Ruoxue looked at the fire dragon that was flying towards her and smiled faintly. Then, she released a fire dragon as thick as a bucket to stop the fire dragon that bounced back and absorbed the divine power on the fire dragon. After that, she split into 2 fire dragons and flew towards Chenglong. This divine skill was called the Dance of the 2 Dragons. She had once seen her Cheapsake old ancestor use it. However, at that time, the ancestor used mystic energy to activate it, and she was using divine power now, so its power was doubled. People who had ascended to the god realm or the natives of the god realm could only use divine power normally after undergoing energy conversion. Moreover, from then on, the spiritual energy they absorbed in the world would automatically transform into divine power. The level of divine power was definitely higher than mystic energy. Therefore, only those who could use divine power could become gods. Is this the dance of the two dragons? Cheng Lan could not help but ask as she watched the fire dragons approaching her. These two dragons seemed to be different from the dance of the two dragons she knew. When she fought others, she had seen others use this divine skill. However, the power that those people used was definitely not comparable to the two fire dragons flying towards her now. Yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Among the divine skills, the fire dragon dance and the dance of the two dragons were not the best, so she was not surprised that Cheng Lan would have such a reaction. You're not lying to me, are you? The dance of the two dragons doesn't make people feel so pressured, Cheng Lan said with a look of disbelief. It's true. There's no such thing as a bad divine skill in this world. There are only people who can't use it well. Leng Ruoxue was very sure that she wasn't wrong and couldn't help but defend her divine skill. The two fire dragons seemed to have sensed Leng Ruoxue's words and danced even more happily. In an instant, the two fire dragons had already approached Cheng Lan's defensive barrier. However, before attacking, the two dragons exchanged glances and then attacked in one direction. Chapter 930. With a crisp sound, Cheng Lan's defensive barrier shattered with a huge explosion. In an instant, fire and dust flew everywhere. The two dragons had completed their mission and returned to the world. Cheng Lan was injured by the aftershock of the explosion because she underestimated Leng Ruoxue's strength. A trace of blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. Lena! Lu Xian, who was standing below the arena, looked at Cheng Lan worriedly and couldn't help but shout. I'm fine. Cheng Lan wiped the blood off her lips and forced a smile. Lena! Lu Xian knew that Lena was injured, but at this moment, he knew that he could not stop her unless she admitted defeat or gave up. Cheng Lan looked at Lu Xian comfortingly, then turned to Leng Ruoxue with mixed feelings. She had promised to let Leng Ruoxue make 3 moves, but she was already unable to withstand the second move. Even though Cheng Lan knew that she would definitely lose if they continued fighting, she was really unwilling to admit defeat just like that. She'd always been proud, and she'd rarely had an opponent among women her own age. Even when it came to a lot of good men, Shed had no fear of any of them, except for the particularly top ones. But today, a small, insignificant mystic god made her feel intensely powerless. Something Shed never felt before. Leng Ruoxue saw Cheng Lan looking at her thoughtfully but not saying anything, so she could only let her look. After a while, Cheng Lan finally couldn't help but speak. Why aren't you continuing? Cheng Lan asked in confusion. Logically speaking, shouldn't Leng Ruoxue chase after her and beat her down? Aren't you thinking? It's not fair to attack when the other party is distracted, Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. In fact, if it were someone else, she definitely wouldn't have stopped. However, she could tell that Cheng Lan wasn't an unreasonable person, so she was willing to give Cheng Lan a chance to think it through herself because this was the only way to settle this once and for all. Otherwise, Cheng Lan would probably not be convinced and there would be no end to this trouble. I want to know your true strength, Cheng Lan said after some thought. It's what you see, mystic god. Leng Ruoxue said gloomily. Boo. She was sad when she thought about how she didn't even advance 1 level during the energy conversion. You didn't hide your strength? Cheng Lan's eyes widened in disbelief. If Leng Ruoxue was really at the mystic god level, she was definitely the most abnormal mystic god she had ever seen. One had to know that in the god realm, the difference in strength was like the difference between heaven and earth. If others knew that a little mystic god had actually broken through her defensive barrier, no one would believe it. No, I just completed the energy conversion more than half a month ago. I didn't have time to learn many divine skills. Leng Ruoxue said honestly. Yesterday, Leng Qianye had just bought all the divine skills sold by the Mystic God Association, and last night, they had been discussing becoming martial artists, so they didn't have the time to learn divine skills. Cheng Lan was speechless. Boo! How did she meet such a pervert? Brother Cheng, can't we really be together? I admit defeat, Cheng Lan said reluctantly after a long while. Leng Ruoxue had broken her defense, and she was also injured. It wouldn't do her any good to continue fighting. Even though she was sometimes very stubborn, she still knew what to do in big matters. She admitted defeat because she didn't want to lose too badly. However, this also strengthened her determination to cultivate hard. Sooner or later, she would definitely wash away this stain. Then Cheng Wu, Leng Ruoxue reminded, but she didn't finish her sentence. She knew that Cheng Lan understood. "I'll let them go with you. However, what I want to say is that I really didn't capture him or lock him up. I just want him to stay here. Besides, there are people serving them every day," Cheng Lan explained. Even though she was filled with reluctance, she had given her word previously, so she could only bear the pain and part with him. "Boo. Brother Cheng, I really can't bear to part with you. Miss Cheng, I've also said that for the sake of others, they have to be able to accept your kindness. Otherwise, it will be a burden to others," Leng Ruoxue said bluntly. She believed that Cheng Lan had no ill intentions towards Cheng Wu and the others. However, Cheng Lan did not know that the kind of kindness she thought was unacceptable to others. "I understand. I'll listen to your advice," Cheng Lan said humbly. Then, she brought Leng Ruoxue and the others back to the main hall. Not long after, Cheng Wu and the others were brought over. Chapter 931, Miss. Cheng Wu and the others were very happy to see Leng Ruoxue. However, they knew that this was not a place for small talk, so they could only endure it. They also wanted to leave here quickly, especially Cheng Wu. They wished they could grow wings and fly away. "We can leave now," Leng Ruoxue said in amusement when she saw Cheng Wu's anxious look. Yes, yes. Everyone nodded. However, just as they were about to leave, Cheng Lan stopped them. "Wait." Cheng Lan looked at Cheng Wu, who was eager to leave her house, and felt very upset. "Miss Cheng, is there anything else?" Leng Ruoxue raised her eyebrows and asked calmly. She couldn't help but mutter in her heart, would she go back on her word? When Cheng Wu heard Cheng Lan's words, his heart skipped a beat. To be honest, he was really afraid that Cheng Lan would cause trouble again. He was really afraid. "Brother Cheng, I can let you leave this time, but..." Cheng Lan looked at Cheng Wu's nervous expression and was furious. She didn't know how to say what she wanted to say. "But what do you want?" Cheng Wu asked warily, his heart wailing. "Spare him. I will continue to pursue you. I will show you my sincerity. I won't give up so easily." Cheng Lan blushed and said in one breath. Cheng Wu was completely depressed after hearing Cheng Lan's words. However, they were in someone else's territory now, so he didn't dare to say anything he shouldn't. Otherwise, if he angered the eldest daughter of the Chung family, none of them would be able to leave. That would be a tragedy. "Yes, that's right. Miss Cheng, please remember. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. If Cheng Wu is willing to be with you, I won't stop him." Leng Ruoxue looked at Cheng Wu's pitiful gaze and could only say helplessly. She said this to remind Cheng Lan not to force Cheng Wu. "I know. I won't force him. I'll try my best to woo him and move him," Cheng Lan said as bravely as a female warrior born for love. In fact, she had never said such things to anyone in her life, so she was nervous and shy. "Then work hard. Goodbye," Leng Ruoxue said and left the Chung family mansion with everyone. On the way back to the restaurant, Cheng Wu looked at Leng Ruoxue bitterly and wanted to say something but hesitated. "Cheng Wu, why are you looking at me with a resentful expression? You caused this yourself," Leng Ruoxue teased Cheng Wu after returning to the guest room. "Miss, you won't even help me," Cheng Wu said with a depressed expression. "Why won't I help you? If I didn't help you, would you be standing here now?" Leng Ruoxue asked helplessly. Alas, how could she make decisions for Cheng Wu when it came to relationships? That's right. "Brother Cheng, if Miss hadn't thought of a way to get you out, you would only be able to wait as a groom in the Chung family now," Fengde said, wishing for the world to be in chaos. "I meant just now," Takeshi reminded him. "Oh, what if she changes her mind if I didn't say that just now?" Leng Ruoxue looked at Cheng Wu and chuckled. That's true. Miss, let's leave this place quickly. The further we go, the better." Cheng Wu smiled foolishly and quickly said. He was now once bitten, twice shy. Therefore, he only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible and stay far away from Chenglan. Ah, Brother Cheng, it seems like you're really afraid. Actually, I think that Miss Cheng is not bad. You can really consider her, Feng De suggested with a smile. Go to hell. If you like it, consider it yourself. Cheng Wu roared angrily. I can't. I already have someone, Feng De said regretfully. Lu Tao, you have to be careful. Cheng Wu looked at Feng De provocatively and reminded him. Doesn't matter, said Pichi, unimpressed. My lady said that new things will only come if I discard the old. Ah. Cheng Wu was depressed. He didn't seem to have succeeded in sowing discord. Alright, stop fooling around. Since the matter has been resolved, let's leave tomorrow. Lung Ruoxue said after watching them laugh for a while. Miss, let's go now. Cheng Wu was very eager. Cheng Wu, you're a man. How can you be so frightened by a woman? Lung Ruoxue said speechlessly. She didn't think Cheng Lan was someone who would force himself on others. Why was Cheng Wu so frightened? Miss? Cheng Wu looked at Lung Ruoxue with a bitter expression, feeling extremely aggrieved. Boo! He didn't want this to happen either. He had never met such a proactive woman in his life. It doesn't matter. Didn't Miss Cheng say that she won't force you? What are you afraid of? Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. It doesn't feel good to be pestered. Cheng Wu whispered. Cheng Wu, I can't help you. I can only say that you're too attractive to Miss Cheng. Lung Ruoxue sighed and said sympathetically. Miss, don't leave me alone. Cheng Wu was so anxious that he was about to cry. I'm not ignoring you. Didn't Miss Cheng promise not to force you? Besides, she wants to pursue you. If I forcefully stop her, won't Miss Cheng fly into a rage out of humiliation? That won't do you any good, right? Lung Ruoxue explained. But I don't want her chasing me, Takeshi said quietly. That's not my decision. There's nothing wrong with loving someone. So, unless you kill her, you can't stop her from liking you, Lung Ruoxue comforted. Is there no way to make her give up on me? Cheng Wu couldn't help but ask. Cheng Wu, we can't help you with relationships. If you want her to give up, you can only work hard yourself. Running away won't solve the problem, Lung Ruoxue said. I know, but I'm really scared of her, Cheng Wu said fearfully. What are you afraid of her for? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. She wanted to ask this question just now, but it wasn't a good time. I don't know. I haven't been around many women, Takeshi said grudgingly. Chapter 932. Cheng Wu, if you're afraid that she doesn't know anything, then I really can't help you. The only thing I can help you with now is to make her not force you to get married, Lung Ruoxue said. Miss, actually, I don't understand either. Why did Miss Cheng target me? I'm not especially handsome, Cheng Wu said in distress. Not all women like handsome men. Look, that Lu Xian isn't especially handsome either. Lung Ruoxue said with understanding. Cheng Lan was probably a woman who didn't like beautiful men. However, there were still quite a lot of fangirls in this world. Ah. Cheng Wu was speechless because the more he thought about it, the more likely it was. Cheng Wu, running away won't solve the problem. As for Cheng Lan, you don't have to be afraid of her. Anyway, we're leaving tomorrow. Can she still follow us? Lung Ruoxue comforted. Well, my lady has a point. Cheng Wu nodded and relented. In fact, it seemed that no one wanted to leave in too much of a hurry, so he was alone and no one would take up his suggestion, boo-hoo. Then let's enter the space and cultivate the divine skills. We'll leave here tomorrow morning, Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. The reason why she decided to leave tomorrow was because she wanted to finish cultivating the divine skill. Yes. Everyone nodded. Then Lung Ruoxue thought of something and brought everyone into the bracelet. Then, everyone returned to their residences to cultivate their divine skills. Lung Ruoxue and the others went to cultivate their divine skills, while Empty and Lung Chenye sat on the stone chairs in front of the purple bamboo house to drink tea and chat. This is really a good place. Lung Chenye looked at the dense spiritual energy in the space and sighed. He still remembered the shock he felt when he first entered this place. At that time, he was like Grandma Lu who had entered a grand park. He was curious about everything. After a few days, his mood gradually calmed down. That's right. With such a space, their cultivation speed in the God realm will probably be far superior even to the disciples of the 8 great clans. Empty chuckled, but then he was depressed again. Alas. Unfortunately, his injuries had yet to recover. Otherwise, if he could cultivate here, he would be able to become a high-level god soon. Don't worry. When we find herbs that can treat your injuries and refine them into medicinal pills, you will be able to cultivate normally. Lung Qianye saw that Empty's expression had suddenly become downcast and guessed what he was thinking, so he comforted him. Yes, I'm not worried, Empty said with a light laugh. With Xuan, his injuries could be healed as long as he could find the herbs. The two of them continued to chat until dawn. Lung Ruoxue and the freak cultivated for a night. When she came out of the purple bamboo house, she saw that the two of them were still chatting. She couldn't help but say in surprise, "Did you guys talk all night?" "That's right," Lung Qianye said with a smile. "What are you talking about?" Lung Ruoxue was very curious. These two guys were quite talkative. "We were talking about you. About your achievements," Lung Qianye said jokingly. "I didn't do anything great," Lung Ruoxue said embarrassedly with a few drops of cold sweat on her forehead. "Why not? Even though you've only been in the Boundless Heaven continent for a few years, you've done a lot of things." Lung Qianye teased in a good mood. Then continue chatting. Lung Ruoxue was extremely embarrassed. With a thought, she fled with the freak. Ha! Lung Qianye and Wu's laughter echoed in Lung Ruoxue's mind. "Xuan, why are you running away?" After leaving the bracelet, the freak said speechlessly. "I'm a little embarrassed," Lung Ruoxue said in embarrassment. "Hee hee." The freak chuckled happily. Such a Xuan was really rare. "Don't laugh," Lung Ruoxue said, pretending to be unhappy. "Okay, I want." Freak coaxed, then stole a kiss from Xuan. But before he could make his next move, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" Freak snapped, annoyed at being interrupted when he wanted to do something. "I'm Lu Xian," the man outside the door said helplessly. In fact, he knew that he was a little early and that he had probably interrupted someone else's fun. "Can I help you?" Freak asked, opening the door to the room. "I have something to discuss with Miss Lung," Lu Xian said bluntly, seeing that she had no intention of letting him into the house. "What is it?" Freak asked. "Can we talk inside?" Lu Xian was a little embarrassed. Freak let him in. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She knew that this petty man, Freak, was vengeful towards Lu Xian, who asked Lu Xian to disturb what he wanted to do. "Come in." The Freak glared at Lu Xian. "Thank you." Lu Xian felt helpless. However, he was the one who needed a favor, so he could only behave. Lu Xian walked into the room and greeted Lung Ruoxue politely when he saw her. "Good morning, Miss Lung." "Yes, hello. Why are you looking for me?" Lung Ruoxue asked directly. "It's like this, Miss Lung. Laner and Cheng Wu's wedding is in 3 days, so I want to beg you to let Cheng Wu and Laner have their wedding before leaving?" Lu Xian asked with some difficulty. "Do you know what you're saying? Miss Cheng has already promised not to force Cheng Wu to do anything he doesn't like," Lung Ruoxue reminded. "I know. Laner doesn't know that I came here on my own." Lu Xian was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would misunderstand Cheng Lan, so he quickly explained. "Miss Lung, due to Cheng Wu's departure, the wedding was supposed to be cancelled. However, because of this matter, not only was Laner blamed by the family, but she was also humiliated by the daughters of the Ning family and the Yao family. Therefore, I shamelessly came to ask you to fulfill my wish. Of course, the wedding would be fake. This is only for Laner's reputation," Lu Xian added. After saying that, he looked at Lung Ruoxue nervously. After all, he had never done such an annoying thing, so he was a little uneasy and nervous. Chapter 933, Xian's Request, 3. I can understand your feelings, but I can't help you with this. Lung Ruoxue refused. Even though Cheng Wu was her subordinate, she couldn't make the decision for Cheng Wu. Of course, if Cheng Wu was willing, she wouldn't object. Miss Leng, I know that my request is a little unreasonable, but I really have no choice. The two people from the Ning and Yao families have always been at odds with Lena. After Lena was humiliated by them yesterday, she actually cried in grievance. I've known Lena for more than 10 years, but I've never seen her cry. Actually, other than her liking Cheng Wu, some people in the family have also been pushing for this matter. After all, Cheng Wu and the others are too talented, so, Lu Xian continued, but he didn't finish his sentence. He believed that Leng Ruoxue would understand what he meant. If it weren't for some people's enthusiasm, Lena wouldn't have wanted to marry Cheng Wu so quickly. Please believe me. Moreover, because of this matter, Lena's other two husbands were so angry that they ran away from home, Lu Xian continued. I'm sorry, I really can't help you, Leng Ruoxue said apologetically. Then I'm sorry to disturb you, Lu Xian said in disappointment. He turned to leave. Wait, Leng Ruoxue suddenly called out to Lu Xian. Miss Leng. Lu Xian turned around and looked at Leng Ruoxue, the surprise in his eyes flashing. If you want the wedding to continue, you can actually find anyone. You don't have to find Cheng Wu, Leng Ruoxue suggested. I understand, he said and turned to leave. I've never seen such a man, the freak said after Lu Xian left. He lives for Cheng Lan, Leng Ruoxue said knowingly. In fact, she didn't think that Lu Xian wouldn't think of finding a random man to fake a marriage. He probably found Cheng Wu to try to make Cheng Lan happy. Swear, I live for you too, the freak said with infinite affection as he wrapped his arms around her waist. Yes, I know, Leng Ruoxue coaxed. The two of them were mushy when Cheng Wu and the others' voices suddenly sounded in Leng Ruoxue's heart. With a thought, she moved everyone out of the bracelet. Looking at the light bulbs that had suddenly appeared beside him, the freak was very unhappy. He looked at Xuan with some resentment, and his dark eyes were still flickering with tears. The meaning in his eyes was obvious. Why did you release these light bulbs? Cheng Wu, Lu Xian came just now and wants your help, the freak said before Xuan could speak. Yes, I heard that. Miss, let's leave quickly. Cheng Wu said fearfully. What he meant was that he couldn't help her. If he really helped her, he would probably never be able to get along with Cheng Lan. Besides, he didn't want Cheng Lan to like him, so he could only turn a blind eye. After all, he had never been a good person. Don't be afraid, I've already refused, Leng Ruoxue comforted. I have to be afraid. It's safest to leave this place. Okay, then let's leave after breakfast. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and said. Everyone nodded and left the room together for breakfast. When Leng Ruoxue and the others walked into the restaurant, there was almost no one inside. After they entered, there were few empty tables in the restaurant. As they were finishing their meal, they suddenly heard voices from the next table. Ha! I think Cheng Lan has nothing to be proud of now, a young woman said loudly. Yes. Now she's a laughing stock, echoed the woman across from her. That bitch should be like this. This is all her retribution. Who asked her to marry so many men? Now she's finally kicked an iron plate. The woman who spoke first gloated, but the jealousy in her eyes was red and could not be concealed. That's right. How many women in the god realm would dare to be like her? Those men spoiled her too much. However, now that she's finally been dumped, it's really satisfying. Another woman added, her face also filled with jealousy. The two women who spoke were very young and beautiful. However, the words coming out of their mouths were not so pleasant. Moreover, their voices were very loud, so Leng Ruoxue and the others had no choice but to listen. Not only that, the two women became happier as they chatted and gossiped about Cheng Lan as if no one else was around. Damn it, are you done talking? Shut up. Cheng Wu couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and shouted. Even though he didn't like Cheng Lan, he couldn't help but feel indignant for her because these two women's mouths were filled with filth. It was simply unbearable. How dare you talk to us like that? Do you know who we are? The two women immediately shouted when they heard Cheng Wu's roar. I don't care who you are. Damn it, your mouths are too filthy, you've polluted my ears, Cheng Wu said in disdain. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Even though he didn't like Lan, he now felt that Lan was 100 times better than these two women. How dare you call our mouths filthy? Do you want to die? The two women glared and shouted at the top of their lungs. That's the case, Wu said with disgust, not even looking at them. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. A woman roared and attacked. Several blue lights flew towards Wu. Wu gently blocked the woman's attack with his hand and immediately counterattacked. Seeing Wu and the two women fighting, Fengde and the others quickly hid in a safe place to avoid being implicated and watching the battle. You disloyal people! Wu was furious when he saw that Fengde and the others had actually avoided him. None of them had any intention of helping. Even though he did not take these two women seriously, they had to at least share his burden. Chapter 934, Xian's Request, 4. Hee, Brother Cheng, all the best. Song Di cheered. Brother Cheng, we've given you the chance to perform. Don't disappoint us. Fengde teased. What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't want to show off. Wu quickly retorted, but he muttered in his heart. It was obvious that these two women attacked first. He was just defending himself. It's all the same. Anyway, just deal with this matter, Fengde said with a smile, as if it had nothing to do with him. Wu was so angry that he was speechless. He could only vent his anger on these two unlucky women. Immediately, the attack in his hand increased. Countless divine skills smashed towards the two women like water. In an instant, the two beautiful women were stunned. Their faces were bruised and their clothes were tattered. Just you wait. Our Ning family won't let you off. Just you wait. Our Yao family will not let you off. The two women spoke in unison and fainted. The Nings? The Yao family? Fengde and Song Di looked at each other. Then, at the same time, they looked at Wu. Their faces clearly said, "You're finished. What are you waiting for? Aren't you going to leave and wait for someone to catch you?" Lung Ruoxue spoke before Wu could say anything. Oh, let's escape while no one is around. Fengde hurriedly said. However, just as everyone was about to leave the crime scene, the shopkeeper of the inn walked in with the waiter. Oh my God! What happened? The shopkeeper looked at the mess in the restaurant and wanted to cry. Most of the tables and chairs in the dining room were broken. Not only that, but the two women he didn't even want to mess with were lying on the floor, bruised and battered, as if they had just been beaten up. Boo-hoo, what was going on? If he had known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have left the dining room. But it was too late now. After Lung Ruoxue and the others heard the shopkeeper's words, they ignored him and continued to walk out. However, how could the shopkeeper let go of these people who might be the murderer? He took a step forward and stood in front of everyone, saying as if he was facing death, "Can any of you tell me what exactly is going on?" "We don't know." Lung Ruoxue played dumb. Sorry, they already had a lot of enemies, so they could only pretend to know nothing. How can you not know? Aren't you always here? The shopkeeper was a little angry. He composed himself before saying anything. We were too busy eating to notice anything else, Lung Ruoxue said innocently. How can you eat when these tables and chairs are shattered? The shopkeeper asked, his chest heaving with anger. It broke when we were almost done eating, Lung Ruoxue explained. Then what's going on with Miss Ning and Miss Yao? The shopkeeper kept telling himself to be calm and ask calmly, but he almost vomited blood when he saw Lung Ruoxue and the others in different expressions. Shopkeeper, we don't know them, so I'm afraid we can't answer your question. Why don't you ask them when they wake up? Lung Ruoxue reminded with a smile, her beautiful face full of innocence. We'll take our leave. This is the room fee for the past few days, Lung Ruoxue said again. With that, she took out several crystals and then patted her but before leading everyone past the shopkeeper and leaving the inn. Go and inform the family head that something has happened to the guest shop. The shopkeeper did not dare to stop Lung Ruoxue and the others, so he could only order the waiter to look for the family head. After all, this guest shop was owned by the Chung family. If something happened to the daughters of the Ning and Yao families here, he could not bear the responsibility alone. Yes, the waiter said quickly. Then he turned and left. The shopkeeper also left the restaurant, but no one was willing to care about the two daughters of the aristocratic families lying on the ground. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the others had long sat on the back of the little peacock and flew out of the Cheng family's divine realm. On the way, Cheng Wu kept stealing glances at Leng Ruoxue anxiously, blaming himself. Boo! He had caused trouble for Miss again. He really didn't do it on purpose. Cheng Wu, my man will be angry if you peek at me. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help teasing Cheng Wu when she saw that he wanted to say but didn't dare to. Miss, I'm sorry. I caused trouble again, Cheng Wu said guiltily. Their current strength was still inferior to the 8 great clans, but now, they had even provoked the Ning family, the head of the 8 great clans. Boo! What's the point of thinking about this now? Leng Ruoxue comforted. Cheng Wu, I just realized today that your ability to cause trouble is above Little Schwer's. Little Schwer only provoked the 1 family, but you provoked 3 families. Even the top 3 families of the 8 great families were provoked by you, hee. Leng Qinya couldn't help but tease. I didn't mean to do it. I don't know, Cheng Wu said without much conviction. You've already provoked them. Don't think about it anymore. They'll still say the same thing. Since we're here, we'll take things as they come. Well, deal with whatever comes, Leng Ruoxue said calmly. Will there be any trouble at the inn if we leave like this, my lady? Lu Tao asked. She couldn't bear the thought. After all, they were the ones who had started this. Chapter 935. The Ascender Alliance, 1. That guest shop belongs to the Chung family. Even if it's a little troublesome, I believe the Chung family can handle it, Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. After all, Cheng Lan had forced Cheng Wu and the others to stay for a period of time, so this was considered compensation. Even though she had a good impression of Cheng Lan, it didn't mean that she wouldn't blame Cheng Lan for her actions. Who asked her to be protective? That's right. Who is our brother Cheng doing this for? He just wants to seek justice for Miss Cheng. It's only right for the Cheng family to clean up after us. Feng De said disapprovingly. The Cheng family was the cause of this matter. Therefore, not to mention that he had no sympathy, he felt that Cheng Lan deserved to be humiliated by those 2 women. To put it bluntly, he also blamed Cheng Lan for forcing Cheng Wu and the others to stay. I wonder if Miss Cheng will be even more determined after knowing about Brother Cheng's protection? Song Di guessed curiously. After all, women were easily touched. Of course. Cheng Wu is the man he loves, and he offended the Ning family and the Yao family to protect her. If she's not touched, even I will despise her, Lin Yuan interrupted. But then what should I do? I don't want her to be touched. Boo-hoo. After hearing what Lin Yuan and the others said, Cheng Wu regretted it. What if Cheng Lan became more interested in him because of this? He really wasn't interested in Cheng Lan. It's too late to be afraid now. What were you doing just now? Just wait for Miss Cheng to chase after her husband for thousands of miles. Leng Qianya interrupted, wishing for the world to be in chaos. However, he couldn't help but secretly laugh in his heart. Even though what they said was not impossible, Cheng Wu didn't have to be so afraid, right? Moreover, the more they saw him afraid, the more they couldn't help but want to tease him. Miss, you have to help me, Cheng Wu said with tears in his eyes. How do you want me to help you? Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. It was really indescribable to see a rough man like Cheng Wu acting cute in front of her. Don't let her know I did this, okay? Cheng Wu pleaded quietly. Even if we don't say it, do you think Miss Cheng won't think of you? Besides, the 2 women from the Ning family and the Yao family might not keep their mouths shut, Leng Ruoxue analyzed. They were together with Cheng Wu, so even if this matter had nothing to do with Cheng Wu, they would probably think that it was because of Cheng Wu that they would help her. Otherwise, who would help a stranger for no reason? It was not easy to be a savior, especially in the God realm. If they were not careful, they would get themselves killed. Then what should we do? Miss, Cheng Wu looked at Leng Ruoxue bitterly at a loss. All right, stop acting cute. I'm afraid of you. Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Why did the people and beasts around her like to use this move? She couldn't help but think to herself. Miss, you will help me. Cheng Wu immediately said with a smile. I definitely won't reveal that you did what happened in the guest shop, but I can't guarantee anyone else. Lung Ruoxue smiled evilly. Yes, thank you, Mississippi. Naratake was very happy. With Miss Assurance, he was relieved. Brother Cheng, don't be happy too early. Miss said that she won't leak this matter. Have you forgotten about us? If you don't coax us, I might say that we're showing off when Miss Ching finds us one day. Feng De said with a smile. How dare you disobey Miss? Miss said that she would keep it a secret. Aren't you her subordinate? Cheng Wu was furious. He couldn't help but roar. Miss didn't say that we have to keep it a secret, right? Feng De turned to ask Lin Yuan. Yes, yes. Lin Yuan nodded cooperatively. Miss. Cheng Wu was angered by the two of them and turned to Lung Ruoxue for support. However, Lung Ruoxue deliberately turned her head to the side, as if she didn't see his pitiful gaze. Miss. Cheng Wu called out, unwilling to give up. Boo. If Miss did not help him, he would definitely be teased by these ruthless fellows. Brother Cheng, how do you plan to please us? Feng De asked with a chuckle. It was quite boring flying in the sky. Now, with Brother Cheng to relieve their boredom, hee. Can I be your slave? Cheng Wu said helplessly. His resentful gaze kept drifting towards Lung Ruoxue, but she ignored him. No. Feng De refused without thinking. Why did he need cows and horses? He did not farm. Then what do you want? Cheng Wu gritted his teeth. He was going all out. Brother Cheng, don't look at me with gritted teeth. I'm so afraid. Even though Feng De said he was afraid, there was no fear on his face. What do you want? Tell me. Cheng Wu said hatefully. If looks could kill, Feng De would have died tens of millions of times. I don't want to do anything. I'm just a little bored now. Feng De smiled evilly. I've already been bullied by you to this extent, and you're still bored? Cheng Wu looked at Feng De as if he was looking at a monster and said in disbelief. Boo! Is there any justice in this world? How can you bully me like this? I was bored at first, but after bullying you, I'm not so bored anymore, Feng De said honestly. Then if I let you bully me and I don't fight back or scold you, can you keep it a secret for me? Cheng Wu asked resolutely. If you perform well, there's no problem keeping it a secret. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Feng De knew when to stop. They were all partners, so he couldn't joke too much. Then come and bully me. Cheng Wu said impatiently. The sooner he finished bullying them, the sooner he would be free. Then he wouldn't have to be on tenterhooks. Brother Cheng, why are you so anxious? Besides, it feels strange to hear this from a man like you, Feng De said with goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't help but wonder if Brother Cheng was agitated by them. Chapter 936, The Ascender Alliance 2. Of course I'm anxious. Hurry up. Cheng Wu wanted to be bullied by them quickly, so he didn't have to worry. Brother Cheng, Feng De was joking with you. How could we betray you? Song Di couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't help but say, I know. I've caused trouble for everyone. If you don't let me do something, you'll feel guilty, Cheng Wu said in embarrassment. In fact, he knew that Feng De was just teasing him. However, if he didn't cooperate, he would feel guilty. His acting skills were not bad. Brother Cheng, I'm very satisfied with your cooperation. Don't worry, we're all good brothers. I won't really push you into a fire pit. Feng De said seriously and stopped joking. Yes, we can joke around when there are no outsiders, but you can't say that in front of outsiders. Otherwise, it won't be good if others misunderstand, Cheng Wu reminded worriedly. The outsider he was referring to was naturally Cheng Lan. Brother Cheng were not ignorant people. Don't worry. Feng De comforted him. I know. Takashi nodded, reassured. They all smiled at each other. Schwer, where are we going? Lung Qinya couldn't help but ask curiously after watching the show. Ascender Alliance, Lung Ruoxue said softly, but Lung Qinya was shocked. Why are we going there? Grandpa told us not to go. How dare you be disobedient? Lung Qinya glared and said angrily. Before coming to the Chung family's divine realm, He received a voice transmission from his grandfather and told him that he was fine. It was just that someone wanted his grandfather to help refine weapons, so his grandfather stayed there. Later, he finally found out his grandfather's location. However, his grandfather reminded him very carefully that he didn't have to come over and could go do whatever he wanted. Grandpa was presently in the Ascender Alliance, but he did not know which alliance it was. In addition, he knew that his grandfather did not want him to go because he was afraid that the alliance would make things difficult for him. After all, they were traitors who had withdrawn from the alliance. However, his grandfather's status as an artificer was useful to them. In addition, his grandfather had a master who was the vice president of the Artificer Association headquarters. Therefore, the alliance did not dare to do anything to his grandfather. However, he did not care so much about him. After all, people died every day in the God realm. Even if he died, Grandpa would be helpless if he did not know who his enemy was. Can you really be at ease if I don't go and take a look? Lung Ruoshu asked. Even though Lung Qinya had never shown his worry, she could tell that he was very worried about that cheap sake old ancestor. Even though he said that his ancestor was fine, he probably wouldn't be at ease until he saw him. Fatsugo. Who's afraid of who? Lung Qinya made up his mind. In fact, his heart was still trembling. After all, he did not dare to disobey his grandfather's words. Therefore, he did not dare to go even if he wanted to. However, this little girl was not as timid as him. In fact, little Xuan was not afraid of his grandfather at all. Therefore, he thought about it and went with the flow. I know what you're worried about. Don't worry, if the ancestor blames you, he'll put in a good word for you, Lung Ruoshue promised with a smile. You said it yourself. Don't push the blame to me when the time comes. Grandpa is very scary when he gets angry, Lung Qinya said with a face full of fear. Am I that kind of person? Don't worry, I'm very loyal. If our ancestor blames us, we can just say that we came to the wrong place and don't know that it's the territory of Ascenders. Lung Ruoshue said with a wicked smile. Are you lying to a 3-year-old child? Or do you think Grandpa will believe you? Lung Qinya said speechlessly. He really had to hand it to this girl. If Grandpa really believed her nonsense, then Grandpa must have been switched. How do you know he won't believe you if you haven't tried? Lung Ruoshue asked. Lung Qinya was at a loss for words. Then give it a try. After a pause, Lung Qinya said helplessly. Yes, try it when you have the chance. Lung Ruoshue chuckled, then leaned against the freak and closed her eyes to sleep. After flying for nearly 10 days, the little peacock finally arrived at the territory of the Ascender. Master, we're here, the little peacock reminded everyone after stopping above the Ascender's sphere of influence. Okay, land. Lung Ruoshue instructed. According to the rules of the God realm, flying into the city was not allowed. That would be regarded as an enemy, so they could only walk into the city. In fact, when they were in the boundless heaven continent, they also walked into the city. Even though the rules on the boundless heaven continent were not as strict as in the God realm, walking into the city was a manifestation of respect for a certain city. In addition, they had to pay an entrance fee to enter the city. This was the most important thing. After hearing Lung Ruoshue's words, the little peacock landed closest to the city gate. Lung Ruoshue and the others walked straight in after paying the entrance fee. Apart from the main alliance, the Divine Realms Ascender Alliance was divided into 5 subleagues. Each alliance had a leader, and their sphere of influence on the Divine Continent was southwest of the continent. Even though their position there was not as good as the place occupied by the 8 great clans, it was still quite good on the Divine Continent. The people in charge of the Ascender Alliance in the Divine Continent basically belonged to the 5 alliances. They were also considered the representatives of the 5 alliances here and were in charge of recruiting talents for the 5 alliances. After all, the competition between the 5 alliances was very intense. Which alliance does this place belong to? Lung Ruoshue couldn't help but ask curiously as she walked on the streets of the city. This place felt very desolate. Logically speaking, one of the places where organizations that could compete with the natives shouldn't be like this, right? This is the territory of the 5 alliances. The 5 alliances in the Ascender Alliance are the weakest, so the city they live in is also the smallest. However, the alliance undergoes an evaluation every 100 years, so their positions will probably change at that time. Therefore, no matter who temporarily holds the 5th position, no one here is willing to manage it well. Seeing Leng Ruoxue frown, Leng Qinye guessed what this girl was thinking and explained. Chapter 937, The Ascender Alliance, 3. You don't even develop the place you live in well. It can be seen how chaotic the Ascender Alliance is, Leng Ruoxue said with slight disdain. It seemed that those people in the Ascender Alliance were more selfish than she thought. She did not have a good impression of the Ascender Alliance because of Leng Qinye. Now that she saw such a city, her impression of the Ascender Alliance became even worse. That can't be helped. The Ascender Alliance isn't united. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been suppressed by the natives all this time, Leng Qinye said in understanding. When he and his grandfather first joined the Ascender Alliance, they were full of enthusiasm. However, they were gradually worn down by the lifeless atmosphere in the Alliance. Later, he was bullied again, so he and his grandfather left the Alliance in a fit of anger. This also caused some people in the Alliance to be dissatisfied. Do you have any close acquaintances in the Alliance? Leng Ruoxue asked after some thought. 1 or 2. I just don't know if they're still around, Leng Qinye said with uncertainty. Which alliance are they in? Leng Ruoxue asked again. Right now, I don't know which alliance they're in. Wait for me to contact them, Leng Qinye said uncertainly. 100 years was nothing to the people of the God realm. Furthermore, both his grandfather and him had returned to the boundless heaven continent for a long time. Therefore, the alliance they had originally joined was now in an unknown position. After saying that, Leng Qinye took out his voice transmission jade token and contacted. Little Xuan, they're in the 2nd alliance now, Leng Qinye said after contacting her. Just ask them about the cheap sake old ancestor. Leng Ruoxue reminded. The voice transmission jade token communicated with one's mind, so outsiders couldn't hear the voice transmission at all. Okay, Leng Qinye replied before continuing the connection. Not long after, Leng Qinye stopped transmitting his voice and had a solemn expression. What's wrong? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. They don't know where Grandpa is either. However, someone told me that the Alliance Master of the First Alliance seems to want to refine an equipment, so I guess Grandpa should be in the First Alliance, Leng Qinye explained. Oh, then let's go to the First Alliance. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Little Xuan, you can't go to the First Alliance, Leng Qinye stopped her. Why? Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. The people of the First Alliance are very bad. They always like to bully others. I was bullied by them back then, Leng Qinye said awkwardly. Even though the 5th alliance of the Divine Continent was only a branch of the Divine Realm's Ascender Alliance, its power was still the strongest among all the branches. Bullied? It'll help you bully them back. Leng Ruoxue looked at Leng Qinye with her beautiful eyes and said disapprovingly. Even though she never took the initiative to bully others, those who bullied her would not have it easy either. Those who bullied her family and subordinates would not have it easy either. He's the son of the Alliance Master here, Leng Qinye said helplessly. Little Xuan's gaze made him feel like crying. It's okay, they'll find a chance to let you vent your anger. This. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and handed Leng Qinye a disguise pill. What is this? Leng Qinye looked at the small pill and asked curiously. Appearance-changing pill. If you want to bully others, of course you can't be recognized. Leng Ruoxue smiled evilly, her beautiful eyes filled with schemes. Hehe, since her cheap sake old ancestor might be in the First Alliance, and Leng Qinye had been bullied by the First Alliance, she naturally wouldn't let them off too easily. Xuan, the First Alliance under the Alliance headquarters is very strong. They have been in the position of the First Alliance for many years, and the Alliance Master here is said to be the relative of the Alliance Master at the headquarters, Leng Qinye quickly said. Even though he was very touched that little Xuan wanted to stand up for him, he could not let her take the risk for him. So what if they have nepotism? I won't let them know who did it. Don't worry. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. There were many tricks up their sleeves. Who would be stupid enough to expose themselves? Alright then. However, we have to be careful, Lung Qianye reminded. They had already provoked enough people. If they provoked the Ascender Alliance again, they would not be able to survive on the God's continent. They would probably be hunted down by countless people wherever they went. Yes, bring us to the First Alliance quickly. Lung Ruoxue urged. This way. There's a teleportation array there. Lung Qianye pointed at a fork in the road. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then, everyone followed Lung Qianye towards the fork road. Not long after, with a flash of white light, Lung Ruoxue and the others arrived at the First Alliance. The Ascender Alliance here was composed of a total of 5 cities. Each alliance occupied one city, and the city where the First Alliance was the largest and most luxurious. However, what amused Lung Ruoxue was that the Ascender Alliance was too lazy, right? The city they were in didn't even have a name. There was only a so-and-so alliance written outside the city gate. However, it was quite convenient to go from the 5th Alliance to the First Alliance. With just a few crystals, they could use the teleportation array to reach the alliance he wanted to go to. Looking at the luxurious scene in First Alliance, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but praise. This place really looked like a prosperous city. Even though she didn't have a good impression of the Ascender Alliance, she had to admit that First Alliance's base was very good. Xuan, let's find a guest shop to stay temporarily before asking about the cheap sake old ancestor. The freak suggested. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded. They really had to find a place to settle down first. After all, they didn't know when they could find that cheap ancestor. Then, Lung Ruoxue and the others found a home-style restaurant in the city to stay temporarily. Little Xuan, I'm going out to inquire about the situation. Wait for me in the guest shop, Lung Qianye said to everyone in the room. Let's go with you. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. No need. I'll be back soon, Lung Qianye said. He just wanted to see if he could find someone he knew and ask about the situation here. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. Then, Lung Qianye left the room. Chapter 938, The Ascender Alliance 4. Miss, what are we doing? Feng De couldn't help but ask after Lung Qianye left. Follow him from behind. Unless someone provokes him, don't let him discover you, Lung Ruoxue instructed. She was a little worried about Lung Qianye going out alone. After all, he had an unpleasant experience here. It would be terrible if he met the person who had bullied him before. In fact, it was just as Lung Ruoxue thought. Not long after Lung Qianye left the inn, he bumped into someone on the street. Alright, don't worry, Mississippi. We won't let him find out, Feng De and the others promised. After saying that, they immediately left the guest shop. On the street, Lung Qianye was asking passers-by about the whereabouts of a friend he once knew. However, just as he asked a few questions, he saw a greasy-haired man swaggering towards him from the corner of his eye. The man was none other than the person who had bullied him back then. Lung Qianye had already eaten the appearance-changing pill that little Xuan had given him, so he was not afraid that that person would recognize him. Moreover, he did not want to get into a conflict with that person before he found his grandfather's whereabouts. Therefore, he took the initiative to give way. Unfortunately, someone did not appreciate his kindness and insisted on going past where he was standing. Where did this ugly freak come from? How dare you block my path? Do you want to die? The man said unhappily. For some reason, he didn't like this ugly freak, so he deliberately came over to find trouble. Sir, you were the one who chose to walk this way instead of such a spacious path. Lung Qianye looked at the smug man standing in front of him and couldn't help but roll his eyes. He said with slight disdain, sigh. It's been so many years since we last met, but this Yuan host still hasn't improved. I really can't understand how I was bullied by this thing back then. How dare you talk back to me? I think you really don't want to live anymore. Yuan Ho was furious. He had been in the First Alliance for many years, but no one had ever dared to speak to him like this. Except for that brat from a long time ago. However, wasn't that fellow afraid of him after being beaten up by him? Who said I don't want to live? I haven't lived enough. Leng Qinya sneered. He really wanted to beat Yuan Ho up if it weren't for his identity. Then how dare you talk back to me? Do you know my identity? Yuan Ho glared and questioned. Who doesn't know you on the divine continent? Leng Qinya said with a faint smile, but his eyes flickered with mockery. You still dare to go against me? Ugly freak, you must have done it on purpose, Yuan Ho said with certainty. Since you're already certain that I did it on purpose, why waste your breath on me? Leng Qinya said impatiently. The way he looked at the original owner was as annoying as looking at a buzzing fly. You're right. Guards, capture him. I want to teach this ugly monster a lesson myself, Yuan Ho ordered with an imposing manner. You want to gang up on me? Leng Qinya asked curiously. Even though he was a little wary of this monkey's identity, he was no longer a rookie who had just entered the divine continent many years ago. Moreover, this monkey's subordinates were not very strong, so he was not afraid of dealing with these little monkeys. Since he could not touch that big ape, he would deal with these little monkeys first. Ha! You guessed it. Yuan Ho laughed wildly in triumph. A group fight? We love it. Suddenly, Feng Da's voice sounded in everyone's ears. At the same time, the original Marquis and his subordinates were surrounded by a group of equally ugly and aggressive men. When Leng Qinya heard Feng Da's voice, his heart warmed. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It was good to be on his side. However, when Yuan Ho saw Feng Da and the others, his expression did not look so good. This was because Feng Da and the others were at least twice as many as him. Moreover, all of them were tall and burly. Just from their auras, they were not something his subordinates could compare to. So, what should he do? At this moment, even if he was stupid, he could tell that they were in cahoots. To think that he had thought that the ugly freak was alone. However, he thought about it again. This was his territory, so why should he be afraid? Therefore, after thinking about it, his aura returned. How dare you? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Yuan Ho roared. We're not talking to you. We're just asking if it's a gang fight. Feng Da asked with a smile. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. Damn, don't this pretty boy understand human language? So what if we are? If we want to fight, we're not fighting with you. The person we're looking for is him. Yuan Ho pointed at Leng Qinya. We're together. If you are fighting him, you're fighting us. Feng Da reminded him. How can that be? Yuan Ho was even angrier when he heard that. Chapter 939. The Savior, 1. What's the difference? I've already said that he's looking for us. Since you like to fight in groups, well, fulfill your wish. Feng Da smiled evilly. Then he gave Lin Yuan and the others a look. Everyone understood and attacked together to beat up Yuan House subordinates. Bang, bang, bang. As the punches hit flesh, Yuan House subordinates quickly couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears. They had always been used to using their power to intimidate others. They had never thought that they would be beaten up so badly. After all, they were in the territory of the First Alliance. Not many people would dare to beat them up. However, what was even more infuriating was that these people actually beat them with their fists. Boo! No one in the God realm would use their fists in a fight. They were really too careless. Many of Yuan House subordinates couldn't help but feel uneasy. Spare me! Spare me! Don't hit me anymore. It was unknown who took the lead to beg for mercy. Then, Yuan House subordinates begged for mercy one after another. Unfortunately, Feng Da and the others turned a deaf ear to their words and beat them up even more happily. The people of the divine continent were really different. It had been a long time since they had such a good beating. Moreover, they would not stop until their opponents were beaten down alive. Leng Qinya could not bear to watch the end. Leng Qinya was very clear about the combat strength of Feng Da and the others. However, it still felt different to see it with his own eyes. Moreover, seeing Feng Da and the others beating them up so happily, he wanted to make a move. Unfortunately, just Feng Da and the others alone were not enough for Yuan House subordinates. Therefore, he could only watch with envy. After Feng De and the others beat the last person unconscious, they turned their gazes to the original owner. Your name is Yuan Ho? The pronunciation sounds like ape, right? Feng De raised his head high and deliberately asked condescendingly. So what if I am? This is the territory of the First Alliance. The Alliance Master of the First Alliance is my father. Don't mess around. When Yuan Ho saw Feng De and the others' cold gazes, he was so frightened that his entire body trembled and he stuttered. In fact, he really wanted to run, but after seeing their fierce looks, his legs went weak and he couldn't run at all. Therefore, he could only stand there foolishly and let the other party look at him. The fear in his heart almost suffocated him. When Leng Qianye saw the gazes of Feng De and the others, he was also shocked. They didn't want to beat up Yuan Ho, right? Even though he wanted to, now wasn't the time to beat him up. However, Feng De and the others didn't give him a chance to stop them and directly got him. Thud. After a few loud bangs, the sound of the original owner screaming like a pig being slaughtered filled the street. Yuan Ho cried loudly. Unfortunately, other than Feng De and the others, there was no one else on the street. The reason why there was no one else here was because Yuan Ho and the others had scared everyone away. Therefore, he had brought this upon himself. Now, not only was there no one to help him, but there was no one to return to the First Alliance to inform his father. Fuck, you can't even take a little beating, and you're still screaming so miserably. You're really a disgrace to men. Are you still a man? Feng De had just beaten him up when Yuan Ho started wailing like a ghost. This made him very unhappy. I'm not a man. I'm not a man. Please spare me. Boo-hoo, Yuan Ho cried and begged. He was scared to death. After all, it was always others who begged him like this. This was the first time he had begged someone so humbly. Spare you? Dream on. Feng De threw a left hook, followed by a right hook. In 2 moves, he knocked out the teeth in Yuan Ho's mouth. The others did not stay idle either. They punched each other in an orderly manner. After a few punches, Yuan Ho was no longer recognizable. Don't hit me. Yuan Ho slurred. Don't kill him. At this moment, Leng Qianye couldn't help but remind him. Then he punched him again. Don't worry, we know our limits. Feng De nodded and promised. My father won't let you off. After hearing that the other party wouldn't kill him, Yuan Ho naively thought that they were afraid of his father's identity and status, so he didn't forget to threaten them. Your father? Fuck, I hate being threatened the most. I'll beat you up until your father can't recognize you today, Feng De said fiercely. Then, his punches became even more ruthless and fierce. In fact, the reason why they didn't dare to use the divine skill was not only because it felt more realistic to use their fists to hit people, but also because they were afraid that the divine skill would cause too much commotion and attract some people over. Your father? Fuck, I hate being threatened the most. I'll beat you up until your father can't recognize you today, Feng De said fiercely. Then, his punches became even more ruthless and fierce. In fact, the reason why they didn't dare to use the divine skill was not only because it felt more realistic to use their fists to hit people, but also because they were afraid that the divine skill would cause too much commotion and attract some people over. Seeing this, everyone punched him a few more times. A moment later, Yuan Ho fainted as they had hoped. This guy doesn't have his subordinates to take the beating, Feng De said with dissatisfaction and disdain after Yuan Ho fainted. He's used to being pampered, Leng Qianye said speechlessly. However, he was very cooperative. Thank you, Leng Qianye said again, feeling warm inside. There's no need to be polite. We're all on the same side. How can we watch outsiders bully our people? Besides, even if we don't attack these people, I believe you can deal with them yourself, Feng De said understandingly. He knew that if they didn't appear, Leng Qianye would have attacked himself. However, their appearance was also to let Leng Qianye know that he wasn't fighting alone. This is different, Leng Qianye said, touched. Actually, he was quite envious of Xuan for having such a group of subordinates. There were fewer and fewer loyal and united people in the Leng family. Can we leave this place now? Feng De changed the topic. There was no need to be too polite with each other, so he really didn't like to see Leng Qianye being so emotional. Yes. Leng Qianye nodded. It was time to leave this place. Otherwise, if he was discovered, he would cause trouble. He knew that the Alliance Master doted on this good-for-nothing son. Chapter 940. The Savior, 2. Then let's go. Feng De took out Yao from his arms and asked Yao to cast an invisibility spell on them. Then, everyone walked back to the inn. Isn't this Xuan's beast? Leng Qianye asked curiously on the way back to the guest shop. That's right. Miss lent it to me, Feng De said. Before they came out, Miss had lent Dazzle to them in case of emergencies. They didn't expect that she would really use it now. Miss was still the first to see it. Everyone chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the inn. However, Feng De pulled them to a corner first. Then, he handed each of them a pill and let them eat it. This pill was the antidote to the appearance-changing pill. They had also eaten the appearance-changing pill before they wanted to beat someone up. Moreover, they were not invisible when they came out, so they naturally had to go back the way they came out. What's this? Leng Qianye looked at the pill in his hand and asked in confusion. This is the antidote for the appearance-changing pill. We can return to the inn openly after taking it, Feng De whispered. I'd better not eat it. Leng Qianye thought for a moment and said, he was in a difficult position. After eating the antidote and returning to his original appearance, he was afraid that others would recognize him. However, he should not eat it. He was also afraid that Yuan Ho would come looking for him. So, he was in a dilemma. If you don't eat it, we'll be exposed if Yuan Ho comes looking for us. After all, we still have to stay here for a few more days. Feng De reminded him. But if I take the antidote, Yuan Ho will still find trouble if he recognizes me, Leng Qianye said helplessly. What are you afraid of? Are you planning to leave alone? Feng De glared at him. Don't think that he didn't know what Leng Qianye was thinking. If he really thought that he wouldn't cause them trouble if he left, then he was wrong. There were some troubles that couldn't be avoided. Besides, Miss wouldn't agree with him doing this. Therefore, Feng De believed that his decision was right. Leng Qianye was speechless. In fact, he really had the idea of leaving them temporarily. However, was this Feng De a worm in his stomach? Why did he know everything? I advise you not to think about it. If you're afraid that it'll be inconvenient for you to show your true face, you can just hide in the space. Anyway, with us around, well, definitely find your grandfather. Don't worry. Feng De said very understandingly. However, he couldn't show himself casually after entering the space. Thank you. Leng Qianye was a little embarrassed. It seemed that bystanders could see things clearly. How could he have forgotten about Xuan's space? After all, he had never been a good person. Don't be afraid, I've already refused, Leng Ruoxue comforted. I have to be afraid. It's safest to leave this place. Okay, then let's leave after breakfast. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and said. Everyone nodded and left the room together for breakfast. When Leng Ruoxue and the others walked into the restaurant, there was almost no one inside. After they entered, there were few empty tables in the restaurant. As they were finishing their meal, they suddenly heard voices from the next table. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. I think Qinglan has nothing to be proud of now, a young woman said loudly. Yes. Now she's a laughing stock, echoed the woman across from her. That bitch should be like this. This is all her retribution. Who asked her to marry so many men? Now she's finally kicked an iron plate. The woman who spoke first gloated, but the jealousy in her eyes was red and could not be concealed. That's right. How many women in the god realm would dare to be like her? Those men spoiled her too much. However, now that she's finally been dumped, it's really satisfying. Another woman added, her face also filled with jealousy. The two women who spoke were very young and beautiful. However, the words coming out of their mouths were not so pleasant. Moreover, their voices were very loud, so Leng Ruoxue and the others had no choice but to listen. Not only that, The two women became happier as they chatted and gossiped about Qing Lan as if no one else was around. Damn it, are you done talking? Shut up. Cheng Wu couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and shouted. Even though he didn't like Qing Lan, he couldn't help but feel indignant for her because these two women's mouths were filled with filth. It was simply unbearable. How dare you talk to us like that? Do you know who we are? The two women immediately shouted when they heard Cheng Wu's roar. I don't care who you are. Damn it, your mouths are too filthy, you've polluted my ears, Cheng Wu said in disdain. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Even though he didn't like Qing Lan, he now felt that Qing Lan was 100 times better than these two women. How dare you call our mouths filthy? Do you want to die? The two women glared and shouted at the top of their lungs. That's the case, Cheng Wu said with disgust, not even looking at them. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. A woman roared and attacked. Several blue lights flew towards Cheng Wu. Cheng Wu gently blocked the woman's attack with his hand and immediately counterattacked. Seeing Cheng Wu and the two women fighting, Feng De and the others quickly hid in a safe place to avoid being implicated and watching the battle. You disloyal people. Cheng Wu was furious when he saw that Feng De and the others had actually avoided him. None of them had any intention of helping. Looking at Feng De's aggrieved expression, everyone couldn't help but laugh. You can laugh all you want, Feng De said calmly. He was very proud of being able to entertain everyone, and he liked the happy atmosphere between them, so he didn't mind being teased occasionally. When everyone was done laughing, Lung Ruoxue said, Let's go out in batches starting tomorrow. Maybe we can find useful clues. Right. They nodded and divided into groups. The next day, everyone left the inn in batches. However, Lung Ruoxue and the freak did not go out. The two of them stayed in the purple bamboo house in the bracelet. Freak, when do you think that damn ape will be discovered? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask curiously as she leaned in the freak's arms. Chapter 941, The Savior, 3. I thought someone had already spotted him, Freak said with a wicked grin. But no one seems to have informed that Alliance Master. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. Then you can only blame the ape for being unpopular. The freak laughed happily. So far, that ape was still lying on the street. Anyone who passed by and found him injured, not to mention that no one planned to save him, no one even went to the First League to inform them. He did not believe that no one recognized the ape. From this, it could be seen how unpopular the monkey was. The First Alliance didn't notice that their Alliance Master's precious son didn't return overnight? Lung Ruoxue said in disbelief. This matter was really too bizarre. I guess that ape often stays out late at night. The people of the First Alliance are already used to it, so naturally, no one wants to look for him. The freak thought for a moment and guessed. He really got what he deserved. Lung Ruoxue gloated. When she heard this from Qingju, she almost laughed out loud. Swear, let's not worry about what will happen to that ape. Let's worry about ourselves while no one is around. The freak said expectantly. Worried about ourselves? Alright. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Swear, then let me. Before the freak could finish, he saw that the scenery they were in had changed. Why were they back in the room? He looked at Shuer bitterly. Feng De and the others are back. Lung Ruoxue smiled evilly. Shuer, you did it on purpose, the freak said unhappily, tears rolling in his eyes. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue ignored his pitiful appearance. Freak, don't accuse me. Lung Ruoxue also looked at the freak aggrievedly and even imitated him to act pitiful. Snow, Freak began, but was interrupted by a knock on the door. Go and open the door. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Feng De and the others were really back. She didn't lie to the freak. Yes. The freak nodded. Then he reluctantly went to open the door. When he saw Feng De and the others standing outside, he did not give them a good look, making Feng De and the others feel puzzled. Mississippi. After Feng De and the others entered the room, they greeted Lung Ruoxue. Then, they secretly glanced at Commander Yi, whose expression was very ugly. Their hearts were in a mess. Some people even thought to themselves, I didn't provoke Commander Yi. What's wrong with him? Yes, did you find anything? Leng Ruoshu asked. Even though she had asked Qing Ju to monitor the movements in the city, there were still some things that she had to find out personally. Miss, the Ascender Alliance is very cautious. We asked many people indirectly, but they didn't dare to tell us too much. Some even suspected that we were sent by the natives, Vanda explained helplessly. That's normal. After all, we're outsiders and want to ask them about the alliance. It's normal for them to suspect something. In the future, be careful when you go out. Don't attract the attention of the people in the first alliance. Leng Ruoshua thought for a moment and reminded them. Feng De and the others were divided into 6 teams and went in different directions. However, so far only Feng De's team had returned. Moreover, they did not seem to have made any major discoveries. He wondered if the other teams would gain anything. Leng Ruoshua thought to herself. Not long after, the others returned to the guest room. Miss, we didn't find anything. We were almost arrested, Lin Yuan said gloomily. So are we, my lady, Cheng Wu said, looking crestfallen. The people of the city were too wary of them to speak to them. Neither did we, Song Di agreed. Neither did I. But when I passed a street, I saw a bunch of beat-up guys still lying on the ground. You did it, didn't you? Empty chuckled. He's still lying on the ground? Feng De said in surprise. It had been a night, but no one from the First League had brought them back. It was really abnormal. They're all unconscious. Besides, everyone who saw them chose to take a detour. Empty said with some amusement. This was probably the funniest thing that had happened to him since he arrived. The people from this alliance are really amazing. Feng De was in disbelief. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing in his life. I think they're afraid of getting into trouble, so it's better to mind their own business in the God realm. Otherwise, they'll easily get into trouble, Leng Qianya said understandingly. Sometimes, even if we don't take the initiative to cause trouble, trouble will come to us. So, it's useless to be afraid. The best way is to solve the trouble, Leng Ruoshua said calmly. Yes, yes. Feng De and the others agreed with Leng Ruoshua. Even though they hated trouble, they were not afraid of it. Otherwise, he would not have dared to beat up the ape. Shuer, why aren't you surprised at all? Empty asked curiously when he saw Leng Ruoxua's calm reaction after hearing his words. I got it. Leng Ruoshua chuckled. Miss, why didn't you tell us when you found out? Let us be happy too. Feng De complained. I didn't know for long. I didn't have time to tell you guys, Leng Ruoshua said innocently. Miss, when do you think the First Alliance will realize that something has happened to the ape? Feng De asked curiously. I don't know. That depends on the ape's usual performance. If he's not at home often, I don't think anyone will look for him, Leng Ruoshua teased with a smile. At least 3 days, Leng Qianya said with certainty. Won't the ape be in trouble? Feng De said happily. It has nothing to do with us if he's not unlucky. The most important thing now is to find the whereabouts of our cheap ancestor, Leng Ruoshua said gloomily. She didn't like this place, so she only wanted to see her cheap sake old ancestors so that she could leave quickly. Chapter 942, The Savior, 4. Little Shuer, Grandpa won't tell me if I contact him. Why don't you try asking him? Leng Qianya suggested. Then he'll try. Leng Ruoshua nodded. In fact, she had contacted the ancestor before, but the ancestor didn't reply to her, so she didn't try again. With that, Leng Ruoshua sent a voice transmission to her ancestor through the voice transmission Jade token. However, there was still no reply this time. He didn't reply to me, Leng Ruoshua said in disappointment a moment later. If her ancestor didn't reply to her and Qing Ju couldn't monitor his whereabouts, they could only continue searching. Grandpa is probably refining, so he doesn't have time to reply. Don't worry. Leng Qianya comforted himself. After all, he was also worried. I hope so. Since I didn't find any useful information today, I don't have to go out today to avoid arousing suspicion. Leng Ruoshua thought for a moment. Okay. Everyone nodded and then asked to return to the space to cultivate. Lung Ruoxue sent them into the bracelet. For 3 days in a row, Feng De and the others would go out to the streets every day. This time, they changed their strategy and only strolled on the streets. They did not ask anything and first got to know each other so that they would not be suspected. After 3 days of hard work, their strategy was beginning to bear fruit. At least someone was willing to talk to them. They also openly and secretly asked about the internal gossip of the First Alliance. After some people opened up, they could not shut up. They would tell them all the good and bad things, making Feng De and the others not know whether to laugh or cry. As for the unlucky ape and his subordinates, they were still lying on the ground and ignored. Feng De and the others would pass by them every day, either intentionally or unintentionally. Then, after returning to the guest room, they would start discussing. Feng De and the others even made a bet out of boredom, guessing how many days it would take for the ape to be brought back by the First Alliance. After another 3 days, Feng De and the others finally got some information. Lung Xiaoyu was indeed in the First Alliance, but he was not invited by the First Alliance master. Instead, he was imprisoned as a hostage. When Lung Ruoxue heard this news, she was completely furious. However, the person who told them this like a thief did not know the exact situation. He only knew that it was related to refining weapons. It had something to do with refining weapons? Lung Ruoxue thought for a long time but couldn't think of anything. If he wanted to refine weapons, so be it. Why did he have to imprison him? Could it be that his ancestor was unwilling to refine weapons for the Alliance Master, so the Alliance Master locked him up in a fit of anger? Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue felt that it was possible. However, Lung Qinye rejected her idea. Lung Qinye knew his grandfather very well. He was a person who did as he pleased. However, he took refining very seriously and treated refining as important as his own life. Therefore, even if it was someone or an enemy he didn't like, as long as you could pay or take out the materials he was interested in, he would still refine equipment for you. Therefore, he did not think that his grandfather was locked up because he was unwilling to refine weapons for the Alliance Master. After all, other than the matter with the ape, they did not have any blood feud with the Alliance Master. Therefore, if the Alliance Master really looked for his grandfather should not refuse to refine weapons for him. At most, he would make him bankrupt. Grandpa often said that enemies did not have to kill him to vent their anger. There were many ways to torture people, and killing the other party directly was the least painful. Therefore, his grandfather would never make a loss. Lung Qinye knew very well that although his grandfather looked cold on the outside, he was actually black-hearted. In the guest room, Lung Ruoxue and the others gathered. "Miss, why don't I turn invisible and search the First Alliance?" Feng De suggested. "You might not be able to find it if you go. The only way now is to go straight to the First League." Lung Ruoxue frowned and pondered, then said, "Shuer, do you want to go straight to the door and ask for her?" "The Alliance Master will probably pretend not to know," Empty reminded her. This matter seemed to be a secret in the Alliance, and not many people knew about it. "Miss, can we enter directly?" Cheng Wu frowned. "Little Shuer, I'm afraid we won't even be able to enter the First Alliance," Lung Qinye said. "Who said we can't enter? We're the saviors of his precious son." Lung Ruoxue smiled evilly and turned her attention to the ape that no one cared about. It had been a few days and no one had claimed the ape yet. Now, it just happened to be useful to them. "Miss, you're too ruthless," Feng De said with admiration. They were the ones who beat him up. Now, they had become his saviors again. If that ape knew the truth, he would be furious. "I have no choice. Feng De, bring a few people to save the ape. We can come as his savior," Lung Ruoxue instructed. "But don't worry, miss. I know what to do," Feng De promised and left with a few people. Not long after, Feng De and the others returned with the unconscious ape. They were just short of beating the gongs and drums to make everyone know about it. Their ostentatious actions also caused a commotion in the inn. "Sai, my lord, why did you bring the beggar back?" The shopkeeper frowned when he saw the person Feng De and the others were carrying. His eyelids twitched and his expression was very ugly. "Shopkeeper, he's not a beggar. We picked him up on the road and he's injured. We can't just leave him in the lurch," Feng De said loudly, afraid that the people in the inn could not hear him. Glancing at the ape again, Feng De was already laughing in his heart. He thought to himself, if the ape woke up and knew that he had been treated as a beggar, would it break down? The current ape really looked like a beggar no matter how one looked at it. Not only was it covered in injuries, but its clothes were also covered in a thick layer of dust. After all, it had been exposed to the wind and sun for a few days. How could it look good? However, this was not his concern now. The only thing he had to do was become this ape's savior. Chapter 943, The Savior, 5. In any case, you must not bring such a filthy person into the inn, the innkeeper said with an air of refusal to bend the rules. In the last few days, he had heard of beggars lying in a street, but many seemed to have chosen to ignore them. Why did these people have to meddle? The innkeeper could not understand. "Shopkeeper, don't be so heartless. Haven't you heard that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda? As long as you show mercy, you will definitely be rewarded." Feng De coaxed. "That won't do. With him around, it will affect my business." The shopkeeper still refused to give in, and he was even more unwilling to let Feng De bring this trouble to his shop. When Leng Ruoxue and the others arrived downstairs, they happened to see Feng De arguing with the shopkeeper, so they pretended to be puzzled and asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" "Miss, we saved someone on the street. The shopkeeper refused to let us bring him to the guest shop," Feng De quickly complained, looking aggrieved. "The shopkeeper is afraid that you will affect his business." "It's not wrong for him to think that way." Leng Ruoxue smiled and explained on behalf of the shopkeeper. When the shopkeeper heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he was so touched that he almost cried. Finally, someone understood him. It hadn't been easy. "Then what should we do? We can't just leave him in the lurch. He's very pitiful," Feng De said awkwardly. He looked at the thing in his hand. It didn't seem appropriate to put it anywhere. "Shopkeeper, since my subordinates discovered him and brought him back, you can't let us throw this person out, right? I believe that you're not such a heartless person, so how about this? Please be magnanimous and let us keep this person. I'll pay double the room fee." Leng Ruoxue praised the shopkeeper simply and then suggested, "All right then. I'll let him stay for the sake of Miss. However, don't let him run around. He'll scare the other customers in the shop with his current appearance." Such a peerless bowtie soft request was really impossible for the shopkeeper to refuse. Therefore, he agreed after some thought. After all, she was willing to pay double the room fee. "Thank you, shopkeeper. Please help him get a room," Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. "All right," the shopkeeper agreed readily. Then he arranged a room for the beggar and kept muttering, "You've met a good person." After returning to her room, Leng Ruoxue asked Feng De to send medicine to the ape. However, she did not intend to cure all the apes, so the pill could only guarantee that the ape would wake up. "Miss, the ape is awake," Feng De said when he returned. "Okay, let's go see him." Leng Ruoxue chuckled and left the room. When they arrived at the door of the ape room, Leng Ruoxue and the others pushed open the door and walked straight in. The ape, who was lying on the bed, immediately turned his head when he heard the sound. When he saw the peerless beauty in the room, he revealed an extremely stunned gaze. If it weren't for the fact that his body was inconvenient, he would have pounced on her long ago. Where did such a beauty come from? She was really too beautiful. Ape couldn't help but praise in his heart. His heart had long flown to Leng Ruoxue's side, and his lecherous eyes were firmly glued to her body. "You're awake?" Leng Ruoxue asked knowingly and resisted the urge to punch him because this man's gaze was really annoying. "Well, you are?" the ape asked politely, pretending to be a gentleman, but his eyes were already betraying the filthy thoughts that ran through his mind. "My surname is Ning," Leng Ruoxue said casually. "So it's Miss Ning. Thank you for saving me. I will definitely repay you well," the ape said gratefully. He was even more pleasantly surprised because he did not expect his savior to be the famous Miss Ning. Miss Ning's beauty was second to none in the divine continent. However, he had never had the chance to see her. He did not expect that he would be saved by Miss Ning, whom he had admired for a long time. He could not help but feel a little lightheaded looking at the peerless beauty in front of him. Miss Ning, why did you come to the Ascender Alliance and not stay in the Ning family's divine realm? The ape asked curiously. Even though there were often conflicts between Ascenders and natives, the opposition between any faction was not absolute. There would be conflict between them, but there would also be benefits. He was ignorant and incompetent, but his many years of experience in the Ascender Alliance made him very clear about the interests of the various forces. Therefore, he naturally did not treat this devastatingly beautiful woman as an enemy. Lung Ruoxue was stunned when she heard the ape's words. She didn't expect the ape to treat her as the young lady of the Ning family. Even though she had just casually said her surname, this accident gave her a better inspiration. Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but say with a worried expression, I want to refine an equipment for my father as a gift, but I haven't been able to find the best weapon artificer in the divine continent. I've been looking for him for a long time. Recently, I heard that he once appeared in the Ascender Alliance, so I came to try my luck. A craftsman? Miss Ning, our Ascender Alliance has several artificers who are very good. Why don't I get them to help you refine equipment? The ape said fawningly. Our Ning family has an artificer, but my father only likes the equipment refined by His Excellency Lung Xiaoyu, so I've been looking for him. I want to make father happy because father has been worried about my marriage recently. Lung Ruoxue deliberately pretended to be guilty of her daughter. Miss Ning's marriage? The ape probed. Yes. I'm not young anymore. Father is looking for a husband for me. Lung Ruoxue said shyly, but she was sweating in her heart. It was really not easy to act like a young girl in love. If someone can help me find Lung Xiaoyu's whereabouts and have his help on refining weapons, father will definitely be very happy. He might even marry me to him. Lung Ruoxue continued to throw out a huge bait. Miss Ning, does it have to be Lung Xiaoyu? The ape said with some difficulty. He was also very regretful in his heart. That Lung Xiaoyu had a grudge against him. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to order her around. He knew this very well. Yes, my father wants only him, Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. However, I also know that it's not easy to hire Ling Xiaoyu, so if someone knows Ling Xiaoyu's whereabouts and informs me, father will be very happy to know, Lung Ruoxue added. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Ape fell silent. He was even more conflicted because he knew Lung Xiaoyu's whereabouts, but his father had repeatedly ordered him not to tell anyone, so he was very hesitant. Lung Ruoxue saw that the ape was silent and did not disturb him because she knew that the ape needed time to think. It was probably not a glorious thing for the old ancestor to be imprisoned by the Alliance Master. After thinking for a long time, the ape made up his mind and finally made a final decision. He would risk everything for his future happiness. Miss Ning, I know where Lung Xiaoyu is, but he has angered my father because of something, so he is being punished. I don't know if my father will let him help you refine weapons. The ape deliberately pretended to be troubled. Even though he liked to bully the weak, he was not stupid at all. He knew very well what to say and what not to say. The real reason why Lung Xiaoyu was locked up could not be said. Oh, I wonder who is your father? Lung Ruoxue's face was full of question marks. My father is the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Continent, the ape said proudly. So you're the Alliance Master's young master. Sorry for being disrespectful, Lung Ruoxue said in realization. Miss Ning, you're too polite. You're my savior. The ape said shyly. Young Master Yuan, you don't have to be too polite. Anyone who passed by would have helped you. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. I wonder if you can introduce me to the next Alliance Master? I believe I can convince the Alliance Master to order Lord Lung Xiaoyu to refine weapons for my father, Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. Chapter 944, The Suspicious Yuan Biao, 1. Of course there's no problem with introducing you, but I'm not sure if my father will agree to let Ling Xiaoyu help you refine weapons. The ape did not dare to be too confident because he was not confident in convincing his father. It's okay, as long as young Master Yuan can introduce me to the next alliance master. I'll do the rest myself. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Her smile was like 100 flowers blooming, making the ape dizzy. Miss Ning, don't worry. I'll help you, the ape said seriously. Then I'll thank young Master Yuan first, Leng Ruoxue said politely. Hee Miss Ning, you're too polite. You're my savior. I said that I would repay you properly, the ape said very seriously. Young Master Yuan, saving you is also fate. Why are you still talking about repaying us? You've just woken up, so I won't disturb you anymore. Have a good rest. Leng Ruoxue suppressed her disgust and left with everyone. Miss Ning, the ape muttered to himself as he looked at Leng Ruoxue's back. He made up his mind to find a way for Leng Xiaoyu to refine weapons for Miss Ning. How could he bear to disappoint such a peerless beauty? Moreover, this was also for his future happiness, so he believed that it was all worth it. After leaving the ape's room, Leng Ruoxue felt a pair of resentful eyes locked on her. She couldn't help but sigh softly. She knew who it was without even looking. Freak. Leng Ruoxue called out softly, but she didn't say anything. I'm jealous, Xuan, Freak said, pouting unhappily. Please keep reading Zero and MYB Zero's novel. Can't be good. This is just a temporary measure. Leng Ruoxue coaxed as if no one was around, ignoring the gazes of Fengde and the others. That damn monkey actually dared to have designs on you. When this matter is over, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. The freak clenched his fists and said fiercely. When we find who we need, you can do whatever you want with him, Leng Ruoxue said quickly. Xuan, I'm a little hurt. You have to comfort me. The freak took the opportunity to wheedle. Alright. Leng Ruoxue was helpless. After returning to her room, she could only bring the freak into the bracelet and comfort him. Sigh. Miss is really pitiful. Commander Yi will definitely eat her up. After Leng Ruoxue and the freak entered the bracelet, Fengde, who stayed in the room, couldn't help but sigh. What do you know? Miss, this is all because of love. Hearing Fengde's words, Lu Tao was unhappy and couldn't help but defend her Mississippi. If she didn't love someone, who would accommodate them unconditionally? Lu Tao is right. It's all because of love. I will do the same. Fengde quickly said fawningly. At least you're sensible, Lu Tao said smugly, rolling her eyes at Fengde. Hee. Lu Tao, my heart is also injured. Can you comfort me too? Fengde smiled evilly and looked at Lu Tao expectantly. Sure. Let's go. Let's find an empty room. I'll comfort you. Lu Tao smiled. Since Fengde had this wish, how could she bear to disappoint him? Let's go. Fengde was very happy. He finally had a chance to get close to her. It was really not easy. Just like that, Lu Tao and Fengde found an empty room and closed the door tightly, cutting off everyone's curious gazes. How do you think Lu Tao will comfort the captain? Someone asked curiously. I don't know. Song Di shook his head, his face full of anticipation. They didn't dare to discuss Miss matter, but they could still discuss Fengde's matter. Tisk, is there a need to say that? The captain must be in trouble. There's no one around Miss who isn't violent, especially women, Lin Yuan said understandingly. Actually, he didn't think highly of Fengde. What did you say? If you have the guts, why don't you repeat what you just said? Hearing this, Cui Zhu narrowed her eyes and said with a faint smile. After following Miss for so many years, she had also gained a lot of knowledge. She was no longer the innocent and cute little girl from before. Therefore, she was determined to defend the rights and interests of women. Please keep reading on IB0XN0V. That C0M. I didn't say anything really. Lin Yuan corrected himself shamelessly and wailed in his heart. Boo. He was right. The women beside Miss were indeed violent. However, he had forgotten that there was a woman standing beside him. He was doomed. He stole a glance at Cui Zhu, who was glaring at him with her hands on her waist. Lin Yuan's heart was beating non-stop. Not long after, there was the sound of thunder from the room Feng De and Lu Tao had just entered. Then Feng De's will. Lu Tao. Calm down. Calm down. Feng De's voice came from the room from time to time. When everyone heard this, their foreheads could not help but drip with cold sweat. However, they could not help but secretly laugh in their hearts. This time, they had gone for wool and come home shorn. How could tofu be so delicious? However, when Feng De walked out of the room with Lu Tao as if nothing had happened, everyone saw the 2 bruises on Feng De's eyes. Even though they suppressed their laughter, their flushed faces revealed their thoughts. I fell down accidentally, Feng De explained awkwardly. He was clearly trying to hide something. In fact, it would have been better if he hadn't explained. Everyone could have resisted pretending that nothing had happened, but now that he had, they couldn't help but laugh. Seeing everyone laughing wildly, Feng De looked at Lu Tao with resentment and felt extremely aggrieved. Ooh, it was really too embarrassing. It was alright if she wanted to beat him, but why did she have to beat his face? How could he face anyone now? Feng De, how did you fall down? Why are the injuries so neat? Even the size is the same. Oh. You look a little like the panda that Miss mentioned. Even though Ching Wu was laughing and out of breath, he could not help but tease him. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.